President Kenyatta spoke at State House during a joint press briefing with his visiting Zimbabwean counterpart Emmerson Mnangagwa shortly after the two heads of state led their respective delegations in bilateral talks. And Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe now says the government will in the coming days be reviewing the COVID-19 containment measures following continued low positivity rate. Kagwe said this on a day that registered 14 new COVID-19 cases, citing that they are starting the trends to make an informed decision. The CS also revealed some of the details in the deal to put up a vaccine manufacturing factory through an agreement with US firm Moderna Pharmaceuticals. The masks on faces are becoming rarer in public spaces, with Kenyans breaking the recommended social distancing of at least 1.5 meters. The Ministry of Health has, in the same period, been recording reduced positivity rates falling below 5% in what is described as flattening the curve. And the Kenya Defence Forces troops Wednesday killed one Al-Shabaab militant and injured several others in Milimani, Lamu County. The troops, who are part of Operation Amani Boni, were reportedly on patrol when they encountered a terrorist cell on the Milimani-Bauri main supply route. One AK-47 rifle and 3 magazines were recovered from the scene, while the soldiers are presently on the hunt for the militants who fled with bullet wounds. And the new United Nations Office of Counter-Terrorism in Nairobi will boost national, regional and international efforts to combat terrorism. Dr. Fred Matiang'i, who was a keynote speaker at the launch in the UN complex Gigiri, held the premier regional office as a pragmatic appreciation of Kenya's strategic location and its story in fighting terror. The new office will offer East African regional member countries collaborations and partnerships in combating the Al-Shabaab and other terror groups in the region. And the Center for Disease Control and Preventing Kenya County Director Dr. Mark Baltris has lauded the county government of Busia for recording an increase in the uptake of COVID-19 vaccine, where 282,908 people have been inoculated. Baltris said he was pleased that the country has made progress in terms of scaling up vaccination to manage the spread of COVID-19. Nairobi and Nyeri, which are among the top counties in terms of inoculation, have registered 50 and 52% respectively. He made the remarks at the Busia County Referral Hospital during a meeting to check on the progress of infection prevention and control in 5 health facilities, among them BCRH, Nambale, Kanyangu, Seoport and Port Victoria. He was accompanied by CDC Public Health Specialist Dr. Linus Ndegwa. And brace for dry taps today. This is after the Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company Managing Director, Engineer Nahashin Muguna, said this follows a major water leakage in the raw water pipeline. In a statement, Muguna said during this time, he said they will strive to complete the repairs as soon as possible and resume water supply to the city. You are being urged to ensure that you use water sparingly as they wait for the repairs to be completed. And Sato, an award-winning social business tackling the global sanitation and hygiene challenge, is upgrading toilets in 24 schools across the country over the next 1 year to provide a clean, fresh and safe learning environment for over 50,000 children. The upgrade involves converting the school's open latrines to closed flushable toilets with a toilet pan. This aims to contribute towards delivering better learning outcomes in Kenya. The initiative is part of Sato's School's Toilet Enhancement Program, which targets upgrading toilets in 144 schools across 6 counties in Africa, where it has footprint. The initiative targets reaching over 7.2 million children across the continent. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, My God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislature are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi la Wokovu is Jeshi la Wokovu?
I can't say it very well.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
On Thursday, and what does it look like in these Nairobi streets? Not much in terms of traffic. It's starting to build up in major parts of the city, but nothing too crazy at this point. Jogger Road, usual suspects this morning. We see it building up. Slowly getting towards Landis Road, which is clear and free. And then as you get to the Kamkunji roundabout, that's going to clog up just a little bit. But in most parts of the city, no traffic at all. Clear is what we're looking at. Muranga Road, just a little bit here and there. Thika Superhighway is building up, but we're not at a bumper-to-bumper situation just yet. How about we keep an eye on things and see what it looks like in about half an hour? You want to help us out with do that? SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there or text on 40127. Let's keep things moving this Thursday.
87.9 Spice FM, Mombasa. This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation.
Yep, it is a lovely Thursday morning. How are you doing? Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, the 10th day of March 2022, 8 minutes after 6. Ndu?
Yes.
Are you comfortable?
No.
What's up?
Oh, no. Good morning.
Did somebody move your cheese?
Indeed, somebody did.
You have cheeses to begin with.
Yeah. How are you doing, City?
I'm actually very well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Adjust your mic. There's something about it. It was all the way down. All the way down. All the way down.
Sio ni nyimbo?
Eh. Welcome to the show. You had a good day?
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm. Better than the previous.
I'm trying to remember, but it was all right.
All right. How about you, Mr. Muga?
Mimi mzima kabisa.
Jana
alikuwa quiet as per normal. Yes.
Quiet as per normal?
Yes, my days tend to be quiet. My weekends tend to be even quieter.
Good.
Yes.
Good. I'm well as well. Thank you very much for asking.
Eric, how are you doing today? Going by the answer that you've just given to the question I was about to ask, how are you doing, Eric?
Oh, good morning.
I'm fine,
Eric.
thank you. I'm fine. I'm very fine. I am well. It's Thursday. It's the first Friday, and the body can tell. Yes, the body can tell today.
Things are winding down.
Yeah.
Today's nap day.
Wow,
Official nap day.
Yeah. No, I have a long day ahead. I'll be spending the afternoon with healthcare professionals today, especially those in the pharmaceutical sector. They are celebrating heroes. That's what they'll be doing. And therefore, what we're doing is today the pharmaceutical sector is actually honoring a man called Dr. Vijay Maini, who is the outgoing managing director of a company called SagiPharm, which he founded many years ago, and is one of the pharmaceutical companies in the country. And those in that sector say he has really been a mentor to many, and so they want to honor him. Yes. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. It's Thursday, #Justice Thursdays. We have conversations today with various people with regards to access to justice. Today we'll be joined by a lady who is the president of the International Association of Women Judges, Kenya chapter, the Honorable Lady Justice Cecilia Githua at 8 a.m. because we are commemorating the first International Day of Women Judges. So we're basically honoring the women judges. And then at 7 a.m., we'll be talking about forced disappearances and extrajudicial killings. Kevin Mwangi, a program officer at the Independent Medical Legal Unit, IMLU, will be here with us. And at 9, we'll talk about politics and what's happening in the country. Governance specialist Javas Bigambo joins us then. 12 after 6. So let's talk about COVID.
All right, let's look at the global numbers. 451 million is what we're looking at now. 451,742,000. 796. Those are global numbers. If we look at what's happening in Kenya, still a low positivity rate of 0.3. 14 new cases from a sample size of 5,585. Still low numbers, still good stuff happening here in terms of reduction in numbers. All right, let's look out in other parts of the world right now. In zero COVID Hong Kong, deaths are smashing global records, even as these numbers are declining in terms of infections. The poor vaccine coverage among elderly population results in city reporting the highest death rate in the world in Hong Kong. The Hong Kong nursing home where some have lived is now becoming what folks are calling a graveyard. It's battled its biggest outbreak of coronavirus cases. Staff at the private facility camped out in the office for weeks to avoid bringing the virus with them from outside. Even so, the inevitable happened in February. They were amongst many residents who started developing fevers, and soon after that, people began to die off. Only about 30% of Hong Kong's residents, over 80, have been double vaccinated, despite vaccines being freely available for more than a year, amid widespread vaccine hesitancy amongst the elderly. Of 2,365 COVID-19 deaths in the city's fifth wave so far, 87% were aged 60 or above, and about 90% were not fully vaccinated. Many of the deaths have occurred in the city's aged care facilities, 87% of which have reported infections involving 16,200 residents and 4,470 staff members. Highest death rate in the world. Interestingly enough, vaccines available, folks are just not taking them up. So smashing global records is what Hong Kong is doing. Let's look at what's happening in the Ukraine right now as concerns COVID. There's a high demand now for risk management specialists. All of a sudden, everybody wants to talk about how to deal with COVID in a conflict situation. Every single company is going to be affected by Ukraine in some way, not just firms that do business with Russia. And so folks are looking at how do you then deal with this and the problems that Ukraine continually deals with, even as concerns COVID and what to do with it. So risk management experts, that's become a career thing that folks are looking at for now. And they're in high demand and they're only few and far between. Interesting things to look at. As with COVID.
Okay. In the country, it's actually in the papers today. The Director of Medical Services, the Director General of Health, Dr. Patrick Amoth, says strong immune systems are reducing the rate of COVID-19 infections in the country. He says basically because a large chunk of Kenya's population has been infected with various variants of COVID-19, that plus the ongoing vaccination campaign is helping to reduce the infection rate. The reduced number of infections and mortality is an indication that the country is in control he has said in an exclusive interview with the Standard. But the experts also from KEMRI, Professor Matilu Mwao, who is the deputy director, says even with controlled infections, it's not yet time to celebrate as a new peak may arise in the country. But if you look at across the counties, some counties have even shut down their COVID facilities. Like Laikipia has closed its isolation centers. In Kakamega, there's been no COVID-19 case this month. There are some counties where, Siaya, Bondo, Nyamira, no infections, nobody who is seeking medical care. It's a good indicator of very many things, which brings us to that point that you keep saying and we keep repeating. Mask mandates should then be reviewed.
Right.
It's 16 after 6. We're live streaming the show on SpiceFM KE, YouTube and Facebook. If you're online, say hello to us. We'll be saying hello to you shortly as we take the roll call after we take a look at the weather forecasts.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz,
Mostly cloudy
neo
conditions in
soul,
Nairobi at
and
17, highs of 27 and lows of 16. It's clear in Nakuru at 15, highs of 30 today and lows of 13. 10 will be the low in a mostly cloudy Nyeri at 12, currently going to highs of 28. At 12 degrees, Eldoret is clear, highs of 27 and lows of 12. We're looking at mostly clear conditions at 26 in Mombasa, highs of 32 and lows of 25. While it's mostly clear in Malindi at 26, it'll go to highs of 31 and lows of 25. Partly cloudy conditions at 21 in Kisumu, highs of 31. And Kakamega will see highs of 33 today. It's partly cloudy this morning at 16. Light rain in Kampala, likely to go on through the morning at 20. Currently, highs of 29 and lows of 19, while it's also raining in Dar es Salaam at 27. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 27. It's also raining in Johannesburg at 15, highs of 24 today, and partly cloudy conditions at 28 in Lagos, highs of 34 and lows of 27. It's also raining, you guessed it, in Kinshasa at 24, highs of 31 and lows of 22. There's a haze over Beijing and 13 degrees going into early afternoon. Thursday, highs of 21 and lows of 6. Clear conditions in Paris at 4, highs of 16 today, while in London it's clear at 8, highs of 15. And New York still, Wednesday night, mostly cloudy at 3, still quite chilly, seeing highs of 4 and lows of 1.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Says good morning. He's tuned in from Kabiria, specifically at Kinothia Center. Okay. Makwara, Western Kenya, good morning. That's where Pascal is tuned in from. And David Neto says, good morning. Joining Kenya's biggest conversation from Meru. Karibu sana. Saharan, Kisumu is awake. And he says, good to have you back. Ready for the biggest show in the country. Indeed. Glad that things are back in Kisumu. Victor Masiaya, a.k.a. Governor 048. Alego, Karapul, Siaya County. Okay. Let's break it up. Alego, Karapul, Siaya. Help me here.
Siaya
County.
Alego. Well, Alego is a huge place. It's what sub-county. Let's call it a sub-county for purpose of discussion.
Karapul.
That's the place now.
Voila.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the specific Maskan.
The specific what?
Maskan.
And so what did you say is the difference between Karapul and Kasipul?
Karapul is a place in Siaya. Kasipul is a place in South Nyanza.
Okay.
To be specific, in Ombaso County.
Difference in meaning?
Ka is of the place of.
Okay.
So Sipul must have been the name of somebody.
And Rapul must be
somebody else's name.
Oh.
So the place of Kapul or the place of Sipul?
Yes, there's a forebear.
Rapul.
There's somebody who was called, whether it's Rapul or Apul, and the other place, again, what's it called?
Sipul.
Sipul.
And please note, it's not Shipul, it is Sipul.
Kasipul.
So it's actually the thing. It's not a mispronunciation.
No, it's not a confusion of sibilants. It is
Right.
It is Kasipul.
yes.
Okay.
Daniel says good morning. Daniel Jamhuri. Ashley, we see you in Machakos. Lord Mo says good morning. Streaming the show. Stand to be counted. You've been counted. Meryl is represented indeed. Listening from Kisumu. That's where Carol Ogenga is. Humphrey Mboya says good morning from Nakuru. MCI is back in Nyali. George Mishuki says good morning. Tuning from Kasarani. Watching live from Kericho. Kericho, by the way, is going to be on my tour. Eldoret, Kericho. Those 6 days I'll do like that. Eldoret and Kericho. I've earmarked those two so far.
Okay.
Sawa.
Okay.
Dennis says he's listening and he says, good morning, CT, Ndu, and Eric. Thanks for joining us, guys. Good
Make sure
morning.
you also do E10.
E10. How far is E10 from Eldoret? Or is it in the circuit?
Yeah, it's in the circuit.
Ah, voila. Okay.
Do E10 to Cabernet. You know the one you keep talking about?
E10
to Cabernet, the most scenic road you'll travel on.
Really? It's beautiful.
Which road again?
E10 to Cabernet.
He's right.
Yeah?
Lovely.
See, now I really, really want to do
Green,
it.
green.
And nice,
meandering.
cold and crisp.
Yes.
And meandering.
There's like an escarpment TV like this.
You're getting into the Kerio Valley. No, you'll see the Kerio Valley from at some point.
It's actually very beautiful.
So now I really, really want to do it.
Hey.
This country, very beautiful.
Indeed.
Diversity, very beautiful. People, equally beautiful.
You name it, you've got it.
Yes. Everybody, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation, City. So where are we today?
Of the beautiful people.
Yes.
Well, we are on the beautiful continent.
City of the beautiful
I decided
Yes.
personally,
Okay.
since North Africa, Tunisia, we are going to Libya. Then
Went
there's
to
Morocco in
Egypt.
the corner.
Yeah.
Egypt is in the other side if you look at the map.
Yes.
If you're facing it, where my right is this side and my left is this side.
So we
Well
started
done.
from Egypt, we went to Libya. went
Libya is on
to
the other
Tunisia,
side.
went
Then
to
Morocco is at the corner there. Now, at the corner of Morocco, okay, there's like a small country called Western Sahara.
There is.
Yeah.
Okay, now the proverb comes from Western Sahara.
Okay.
Yes.
The people of Morocco will not agree. There's like a small country called Western Sahara. But let's go on.
And that problem is whose?
It's the Moroccans' issue.
Western Sahara.
Voila.
Okay? When trouble knocks on your door and you say there is no seat, trouble tells you, do not worry, because he has brought his own seat.
The Sahrawi. Sheesh. Them people of Egypt, same.
Sahrawi, as you call them, that is what they are called.
Same.
I've brought my own seat.
Long stories. At when what happened?
When trouble knocks on your door and you say there is no seat, trouble tells you not to worry, because
I brought my own seat.
I brought my own.
Yes, I'm here. I will say in Nigeria, Wahala they sleep, monkey go wake 'em. I be monkey they sleep, Wahala go wake 'em.
And orangutan day?
No, it's just monkey.
Okay.
And not monkey. Monkey.
Monkey. Okay. No other primate.
So where a monkey sleeps, there'll be trouble. Or what? What?
Listen very carefully here,
When
please.
monkey they sleep,
Yeah.
na trouble go wake 'em.
You said wahala. Now you're
Okay,
substituting.
Wahala. Sorry. When monkey they sleep, Wahala go wake 'em.
See?
Okay.
Focus on the walla, Eric. Just focus on the walla.
Not monkey.
Monkey is
Not
going to
sleep.
Focus on the
Where monkey don't go
They
sleep.
go
sleep.
day.
Where monkey,
Where monkey they sleep, Wahala go wake 'em.
See? Told you.
Okay.
Wahala.
So what does that say? Translate it into
Trouble has come with everything, basically. There is peace, trouble comes.
as you first do the direct translation, inserting where the monkey is.
Start with the wahala.
Where monkey they sleep, trouble go, Wahala go wake 'em. Where the monkey is asleep, doesn't look for anybody's trouble. Wahala comes to shake things up.
Told you, focus on the wahala. Told you.
Trouble comes with its own seat, man.
Right.
Whether you have space for it or not.
Focus.
It comes. Welcome. So let's look at the newspaper headlines. Remember www.standardmedia.co.ke, and the other one is what? The app, which is the Standard e-paper app, which is available where? On the Play Store and the App Store. Okay?
Yes.
What are you looking at?
Okay, so it would have. The story. Let's look at KCP results to be out in 2 weeks, according to Education CS Professor George Makoha. Marking begins Monday with only 3 cheating cases reporting in tests. This is a good thing. There are many other things going on, but let's just look at that for now. The 2021 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education examination results will be out in 2 weeks, according to CS George Makoha, speaking in Nairobi yesterday. He said marking began Monday, while Kiswahili, Insha, and English composition examiners are set to travel to Nairobi. All the papers done in Nairobi have already been marked. These will continue as scheduled and results will be out after 14 days. Last year, 1,255,507 candidates were registered in 28,316 examination centers, compared to 1,191,752,000 in 2020. There was an increase of 33,755, which is 75%. Which was 2.7%. Candidates sat their last paper, the social studies and religious education, yesterday. They sat their mathematics, English, and composition papers Monday, while science, Kiswahili, and Insha papers were done Tuesday. Magoha said 3 cases of malpractice were reported and 2 teachers arrested, while 1 was under investigation. 433 marks out of a possible 500 is what the top candidate in the 2020 KCP exams got. Remember that this exam that has just been written is the 2021 paper. Right? All eyes will be on this year's performance, considering the candidates began their final year last July. Public schools performed significantly better than private schools in 2020, accounting for 10 out of the 15 pupils. Girls excelled in most schools. Of the top 15, female pupils took 8 slots. The 2021 class is expected to join Form 1 in May, and the secondary schools in high demand include Kenya High, Alliance Girls, Mangu High, and Kapsabet Boys. Some 36,254 candidates joined various national schools last year. This year, the 100% policy will continue to be implemented as before. We have ensured that schools have enough classes to accommodate all candidates, according to George Makoha. It would be very interesting to know how far they've gone in that. How much was it? 8 billion shillings? That had been released from National Treasury for the construction of classrooms, because it was supposed to be as the new year starts, which starts in May, end of April. It'd be very interesting to see how far they've gone and where these schools have actually been constructed so far. We still don't have that information just yet. We've just been told that it's happening.
Is it possible to accept that there are things that are puzzling now, and in the foreseeable future they will still be puzzling?
Yes. You're not saying over time we shall figure it out.
No.
Over time we shall be given the information. No. Because we'll just be as puzzled then.
Promises are made, policies are made, edicts are pronounced. We are told loudly that certain steps are being taken to ensure that certain developments take place, like in the education world. And you start one, and before you've audited and figured out whether this one had actually worked, another one is introduced. Just as you're beginning to exhale, another one is introduced. So you have 3 projects supposedly running concurrently, and not really certain whether the first one actually got completed. And just when you think 3 is enough, another one will be brought to you. So all I'm saying is, I've come to a point where I want to be academic about it and say, it will continue to be puzzling. We'll continue discussing it. We'll continue looking at each issue, look at the merits and demerits, and then we will move forward. Okay? Because then on top of all these things, there's CBC. Okay? And there's a discussion around it.
Yeah.
Now, where do you start? Where do you stop? Where do you pause? Where do you take in some more breath before you can exhale?
Fasten your seatbelts. Put your seat upright. Just we are going through some turbulent times. Just chill. Okay. What is really puzzling me though is so the exams KCP ended yesterday.
Yes.
There are some students in those conflict areas who really, we cannot sit and say that they have sat an exam in peace, or that they even had time and good moments to prepare for these exams. If we don't have a conversation about those kids, we are condemning those children.
Absolutely. Look, they're not getting a fair shake at this at all.
Not at all.
And, because it's still really an exam-heavy. The results of an exam, essentially, are what determine your future educationally. It is the results of a particular exam that will then decide what school you go to.
In this particular case, yeah. What school are you going to end up in?
Where are you going to go?
When you go to a secondary school. It's based on the results of this particular exam. Now, there are children in, let's say, Kerio Valley. There are children in Baringo, in West Pokot, in Elgeyo Marakwet, who have not seen peace or known peace for the last 1 year. They have been running away. They have faced hardship. There are children in some 24 or so counties who are facing starvation. Those children are not all in boarding schools where you can say, that the government was making all the efforts to make sure that they are. Many of them are from pastoralist communities. And we've heard from the people in the pastoralist areas that there has been now a lot of movement in search of pasture. How has that affected education in those areas? How has that affected exam preparedness for those children?
If we break this thing down, Erica, and the concern in your voice is the concern in my head, because I'm asking myself this very simple question. National exams are a national event. They're a national occurrence. And whether we like it or not, those exams determine the future of the people who are sitting for those exams. You may not think so, but they do.
For them and everybody else.
Yep.
Yeah.
They do. Now, education is not just about the child. In this country, it's about the family.
Yep.
We can't run away from that fact. So when a child in a particular area is condemned not to have a fair shake, you're condemning not that child, because it won't be one child, those children, you're condemning their families. So this vicious cycle of poverty that we keep speaking of will not be entrenched. It will be exacerbated. So you have a situation where people are in this never-ending cycle of poverty, strife, all the negative things you can think of. It's like they never can get out of it. Now, education, for the longest time, has been that one thing that enables someone to get out of that.
To break free of
this.
Yes. Absolutely.
Now, if you are tampering with that, so what are you condemning these people to? And you know what makes it worse for me, in my mind? It may appear that I sometimes am a little shrill when it comes to discussing our politicians. I'm talking about the MCR onwards, going to women's rep, MP, governor, the whole lot. With this beautiful thing of devolution, surely,
come on, man,
surely you have money that is supposed to go to help your people, where you come from. And all that we are faced with when we look at the Auditor General's report is plunder and plunder and plunder and plunder. How? How then can I have a soft or a kind thing to say about these people in these positions?
And the thing is all we're thinking now is that the exam has been completed, so we've ticked a box and it's done. But then what in terms of quality of practice, quality of education, quality of process not being applied? And
what's annoying is that somebody will actually come and tell you, what these children are going through now. It's nothing new.
Nothing. It's been like that forever.
Really?
It's been like that for years.
I can tell you about very many people who went through the same and now they're doing very well in life.
Look at them, in fact.
Yeah.
Me, in fact, myself.
Let's take this break. Let's take a look at the traffic. 25 to 7.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
To all the young women, the world is yours to discover and conquer. You are the future, leaders of your own world. Just like the women that came before you, it's your time to break the bias. Girls, run the world.
We run this mother.
You are so much more powerful than you think. Hold your head up high. Wherever my sisters left, I must take the mantle and run. Never give up, keep fighting.
This week from the 7th to the 11th of March, join me, Yolanda Mulwa, and DJ Absolute on Sugar and Spice as we celebrate women, that is music by women, movies by women, and conversations.
All right, it's a few minutes after
empower-
6:30, and it looks as though it's building up in certain parts. Started on the Thika Superhighway quite early. I think now is when we're seeing a bumper-to-bumper situation just past the Utali Drift, and then outbound traffic as well seems to be a thing, but nothing too crazy. Again, it looks like we're starting off Thursday, moving along quite slowly. Nothing much happening on Uhuru Highway inbound, going out through to Westlands. It looks all right, and on Gong Road is starting to build up as well. Jogger Road, always usual suspect. Started really early today, especially around the Makadara train station, going out towards Landis. Landis not too bad, but as you get to the roundabout at Kamkunji, that's going to stop you just a little bit. Okay, so I lied. Well, not intentionally, but there's a little bit of traffic on Uhuru Highway just past the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, and it's going to pick up some as well as on Ngong Road. All right. Langata Road also building up some. Mombasa Road, then getting out towards the city. You might want to think about using the southern bypass out through the ICD route. Think about that. Probably a better option than getting stuck in what is likely to be crazy traffic. Then let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice and everything nice. All right. Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
23 to 7.
94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Emmerson Mnangagwa is in the country. Has been here on a 2-day official visit. Met with President Uhuru Kenyatta yesterday. And I think he's on a campaign around Africa to call for the lifting of sanctions on Zimbabwe that have been there since 2001, 2002. The Americans, the United States, imposed sanctions against Zimbabwe in 2001 during the reign of former President Robert Mugabe. Since then, financial and travel restrictions against some individuals and business entities have had a detrimental effect on the country, according to President Mnangagwa. The European Union also issued sanctions in 2002, placing restrictions on travel and freezing of assets. Just the other day, in March last year, U.S. President Joe Biden renewed targeted sanctions against Zimbabwe, citing Mnangagwa's reluctance to roll out political reforms, among other changes. When did Mnangagwa become president? We were here.
Just the other day.
Just the other day. Biden becomes president.
And he's already shouting.
Biden was sworn in, early last year?
January 20th.
In March, just 2 months in office, new sanctions on Zimbabwe. He said actions and policies of certain members of the government of Zimbabwe and other persons undermine Zimbabwe's democratic processes or continue to pose an unusual and extraordinary threat to the foreign policy of the United States. President Emmerson Mnangagwa has not made the necessary political and economic reforms that would warrant terminating the existing sanctions program. Surely.
Economic reforms that would suit the United States.
Yeah, that would go hand in hand with America's foreign policy.
Yeah. Look, you do the things that we want, essentially, and then we remove the sanctions.
It's interesting. Because we were talking about the former governor of Nairobi yesterday.
Yeah.
And the sanctions that were heaped on his head. Without a doubt, some research finding must have taken place. There must have been some understanding that accompanied this particular action, isn't it? But the thing that...
without a doubt?
No, without a doubt.
There's doubt in my mind, but go on.
Without a doubt, some thinking must have gone into it. The decision was arrived at when people had sat, discussed, and looked at reasons why this would be acceptable to them. Remember, this is not my reasoning. I am reasoning on behalf of those who made this decision, because they must have arrived at this thought after some thinking and some logic, whatever that logic is. But the thing that concerns me the most is that whenever a country has headed and had been at the cusp of what you may call a leader of a civilization. I'm calling it a civilization. And I'm looking at empires that have existed before. I find similar traits. Because people within that so-called empire, whose views, whose values, whose culture has dominated other cultures, there's this feeling that everything that they do by virtue, by dint, just because they are who they are, when they say it, then it must be so and it must be right.
And it must matter.
Yes, and for America, it has been democracy. They have been the champions of democracy, the leaders of democracy. This is the narrative, okay? And many things in the US have been precisely that. You see democracy at work, you admire it. You say, if this is how it actually ought to work, but that is never the whole story. Because with power comes this need to interfere in other people's business.
Indeed.
And to impose your might.
Or to make suggestions.
Yes, exactly.
About how they ought to operate.
In other dimensionals, within time, it was forcefully done. What do you think Russia is doing right now? Same thing.
Same thing. But because it's not you who's doing it, then it looks weird. It looks bad.
USSR was a kingdom. It was an empire. Okay? Now, unfortunately, with every empire, now history here will actually serve me right. They always decline. Now, in the process of decline, usually, there's that greater need for you to show that you still have power. And so, you'll find somebody making moves and you wonder, why do you feel the need to keep exercising power even where you don't need to? Why did America have to go to war in Vietnam? Why did they have to go to war in Cambodia? Why did they have to go to war in Afghanistan? There are reasons that are given for it.
Why did they need to blow up Iraq?
The question that you want to ask, and you look at the consequences, look at the consequences of these things. With hindsight, was this the best action that could be taken? Now, I'm asking the same question of these sanctions. Are there better ways in which you can exercise this power? Or do you feel that sitting in the corner and wearing that dance hat is the best way to treat Zimbabwe?
What I really, for someone like, let's deal directly with Joe Biden this time. When Joe Biden says that I'm continuing the sanctions, those sanctions are not only on Emmerson Mnangagwa.
No, it's on the whole country and all the citizens in that country.
Yes. A young child is born in Zimbabwe to those sanctions. A young child is trying to start a life with those sanctions in place. Those sanctions, what are you doing to an entire population? Just by saying, you know what, we don't feel like this guy is ready to bend the knee or kiss the ring, so continue those sanctions. Because that's what it sounds like when you say that President Mnangagwa has not made the necessary political and economic reforms that would warrant terminating the existing sanctions program. What on earth are you talking about?
According to you.
Is it your country? Is it there?
That's the thing. It's
Did
the
the people of Zimbabwe elect this person?
About.
Okay, let's say the people of Zimbabwe saw a transition of power. Emmerson Mnangagwa became president. Economic and political reforms for who? And then you block them out of global trade. You sanction them. You're basically affecting the ordinary Zimbabwean child mother.
You know, if the AU was not as toothless as it actually is, these are the opportunities that it has. When you talk of the All Africa Free Trade Area, or the Free Trade Zone, and you look at the Southern community, this is where we need to strengthen these local bodies. You don't need to really trade with the West. This same story, this same idea that was brought about by these conditionalities, whether it was IMF or World Bank, why do you think President Kibaki and the presidents of this continent in his time went to China? Why do you think they went to China? Because China beckoned, China listened to their problems, China was willing to help.
And it didn't come with the condescending or patronizing attitude that this does.
They had their own agenda. They knew what they wanted to achieve. However, they didn't come patronizing. They would charge the living daylights out of you if you took those lovely commercial loans.
Yes.
But they didn't tell you how to behave. Now, people found it palatable. Because it's like you ask yourself, do our friends actually learn from these steps that they take? What do they think they're actually achieving? And do they consider the consequences of some of these things? Countries grow. People mature. People understand things better than they did. When you say actions have consequences, don't they just?
Don't they just?
It's that same thinking that supported the regime in South Africa for the longest time. That same thinking.
Yep.
It's that same thinking that when Ian Smith declared a unilateral declaration of independence, he also got support. Now, could they not have transitioned? They could have transitioned without that guerrilla war that cost so many lives. They could have. No, but they didn't.
No.
They didn't.
Because somebody somewhere thinks that they are more powerful and therefore right.
Eric, what about these problems we have in the Middle East? Okay? Positions that you take.
Same.
It affects people's lives.
There's a clip that's doing the rounds on social media. There's an MP in Ireland, the Irish Parliament, called Claire Daly. She speaks and she says, all right, so here we are having an emergency session to discuss the ongoing crisis, humanitarian crisis in Ukraine.
Okay.
Because people are fleeing the war in Ukraine and crossing over into Europe. Let's have, this welcoming arms and prepare to welcome the refugees. We have never, ever discussed the humanitarian crisis in the Middle East, in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, people are facing hunger and starvation in Afghanistan.
Yes, they are.
There are people who are really, children are dying
today from malnutrition.
Stories have been told of, how just because you have a family and somebody else has means, so you give up your children to another family. What was reported in the media the other day.
So that your children can actually
survive.
Yes.
Can survive.
And we've never discussed this in this Irish Parliament. But now, because it's happening in Europe, we are being called to an emergency session. Are they more human? Or less. It's 13 to 7.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
City, what are you looking at?
Mornings.
It's not what am I looking at. What are the things that I am looking at?
Okay.
Okay? All right. Of the things that I am looking at, I was debating between this and that, and I have decided to focus on one.
Yes.
All right? It is the Business Daily. Headline: One tribe accounts for 47% of KU hospital jobs. Okay? Nearly half of the employees at the Kenyatta University Teaching, Referral and Research Hospital, KUTRRH, are from one ethnic community in breach of legal requirements for diversity in the sharing of jobs in public service institutions. A report of the Auditor General tabled in Parliament says 285 of the hospital's 608 employees are from one community, representing 47% of the jobs. The dominance of the undisclosed tribe is in breach of the National Cohesion and Integration Act of 2008, which bars a single community from occupying more than one-third of employment positions in state-owned firms. This is contrary to section this and the other and the other and the other and the other. However, she said the management sought to explain that the imbalance was triggered by rush hiring when the hospital was declared a national COVID-19 treatment isolation center. The hospital reckoned it was required to quickly recruit, train and deploy staff to the treatment and isolation areas, making it difficult to balance the ethnic distribution of staff. Now, why did I land on this particular story? Every time we hear of an ethnic imbalance in the employment of people within government institutions, there's a hue and cry, not because of the issue of tribe, but the issue that is not stated is the dominant tribes of this country. It's called the big tribes. Unfortunately, this is not a new story in Kenya. But what is the underbelly of this story? What does it actually tell you? You see, Eric, when you're talking about some of the arid and semi-arid areas of the country, some of the areas that have been hit by drought, some of them who have been hit by floods are now being really ravaged by bandits. These are the same areas where people, by the way, they have schools, People with aspirations, just like the rest of us who don't have bandits and don't have drought. Now, cyclically, if you look at this thing, right from the time of independence, and the neglect that some of these areas have had, what chance do these areas actually have of producing a population of educated people who can be trained to occupy positions even within their own counties?
Yep.
So at the best of times, they're playing catch up. At the best of times.
Yep.
So when you read this, what you're actually reading is you're being shown the disparity that we've had in this country, because some regions had an advantage. The advantage was missionaries got there early, they got education early.
Yep.
The others are playing catch up. Now, it brings me back to the discussion of our county system. Now, when are the people who want to present themselves as leaders, when are they going to wake up to the realization that the issue of the livelihood of their people is now in their hands, not in the national government, their hands? When are they going to understand that it is imperative that this future they keep talking about, forget the complaints that other people are dominating. What are you doing to ensure that your people catch up? That they do what? When are you going to ensure they get their due?
That your contribution is vital to this entire thing that we keep calling development. That it cannot be that this development that you want to see in your particular area then is in the hands of somebody else.
Yes.
But that you are directly involved in seeing that somebody gets from point A to point B, that life is better, that the institutions then that are established within your area that are making human life better, that are making or improving the livelihoods of your people. It's directly in your hands, nobody else. It's in your hands. So are you going to bring other people on board, or are you going to keep ignoring these issues and hoping that they go away, that somebody comes in and steps in, that somebody comes in and completes the hospital, that somebody comes in and establishes schools, that somebody comes in and makes sure that some things are lobbied for at the national level? It's you.
You know, though,
it's you.
As I hear and I agree with what you guys are saying, and it's making absolute sense. However, the same thing that we are actually talking about is what is affecting those leaders, which is the fact that there has been historical marginalization. Many of the areas that we're talking about are areas that are not as sparsely populated, but are vast in terms of landmass. Okay? We had an MP from Wajir here the other day just reminding us that the Wajir County is the same as several of these counties combined,
together.
Right? So the distances that have to be covered. When you talk about establishing health systems, you're starting from scratch because there was not even a single health facility for very many kilometers, hundreds of kilometers. So you're starting from very, 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 very far. Now, everybody else is now just ranking in terms of, okay, so how many new health facilities do we have in this particular area? In some areas that had a provincial health facility, the governor is putting up another health facility. Areas that had a district health facility, governor is putting up another health facility. Some of these areas like Wajir, like West Pokot, like we'll talk about Mandera and such, even Tana River, the one we've been talking about, how many hospitals were there in Tana River before devolution? 3.
Yes.
And just small facilities at the sub-counties.
They even never had what you would call a district hospital, but the district hospital in some of those places were even smaller than sub-district hospitals in some
in
of
very
the
many
areas.
other big areas. Not well equipped, not many workers deployed there, not much.
Hardly
so
any
a
facilities.
government, basically, a governor is starting from scratch. We may say, okay, but this county has a level 3, has a level 4, but who is it serving? I spoke to somebody who has worked in Tana River County, and I was telling them, look, what are you guys doing? We've been talking about this matter of people in Tana River not even getting access to an ICU facility. He told me, we understand. But the amount of money that we have and the disease burden and the needs for healthcare, if we put it into an ICU facility, we'll have put money to sit there, and it will not be serving the people that need this facility, the healthcare, in other areas.
His point is well made, except that money was given apart from what they usually get for such a facility. Money was given. Forget the allocation that counties get. The government, through the ministry, gave a certain amount of money during COVID specifically for these things.
It's just a facility city. The government did not give money for equipping this facility. The government did not give money for hiring and maintaining the staff that are needed in this facility.
I'm going somewhere with my argument, Eric. I'm saying this. What this person you spoke to, because they come from that county, they understand the details of what's actually happening there. Unfortunately, my ears are deaf when it comes to such things, because I expect to be told, accompanying this, what they have done with what they have. I expect that. Because it's not as though they can do nothing. It's not as though some improvement can't be made.
Yes. So actually what they were saying, in fact, it's the same thing that we saw in that story, is the development of the health centers and dispensaries and level 2s and 3s. Those that were there that had been built, try and make sure that it works. Hire staff, entice staff to come and work in Tana River, in that vast area. Get somebody who agrees to come and work for this county.
Do they have a Kenya Medical Training Center in Tana River?
I think they have one.
Precisely. You see, circumstances are such that almost every part of this country has a Kenya Medical Training Facility. What am I saying? I am saying that what we're being told is true. And that's why I said the places that were, in essence, neglected, they were so far behind. And Eric, you point this out continuously. The Equalization Fund, which was never activated. You see, the facility to ensure that these anomalies are actually sorted out. It's not as though thought didn't go into it, and it's not as though certain things were not put in place to ensure it happened. They were. Should one not have been fighting for this Equalization Fund to be activated so they can do these things?
Exactly.
Because you can't do it, it's clear you can't. But there's a facility that is there. What do you do to ensure that you actually benefit? Because apart from it being there, money was set aside for it. It wasn't just an empty box. I am holding these leaders accountable for the absence of seriousness when it comes to dealing with these problems.
Sure, and I think it'll always be a crutch and a comfortable one for a lot of leaders. Say, well, the needs far outweigh the resources that we have.
They always do.
It will always be that way. And I think that what you do is when you see somebody who has been successful, is that they've taken what they do have and started to chip away at the block. And if you don't get to that point where you're chipping away at the block, you'll forever have it with the situation in your hands and not being able to do something about it. And then we will continue to complain and we'll continue to subject individuals and communities and then society at large to poor performance. That's what it is. And we will not get over it because it'll always be a crutch of complaints.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. I think I'm just getting to a point where I am doing just like a quota system in a primary school transition to secondary school. That I will not judge a child who has gone to private school in Nairobi, in upmarket Nairobi, the same way I'll judge a child who's gone to school in Todonyang Primary School in Turkana.
You can't.
If that one in Todonyang gets 250 marks and the one in a private school in Nairobi gets 350 marks, in my books,
the same.
The Todonyang boy
did better.
Has done better.
I am arguing that the same facility that this child would go to is the same facility that this other child with the 220 whatever point should go to. Yes.
Yeah. So in the same way, when I look at governors and counties and I see, okay, this county, they've done this, they've done the other, I look at the other county. If they've built one classroom, from 0 to 1 classroom, and another county has done an entire school, I place them the same. We shall continue with this one. We shall debate this at greater length sometime. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. It's the Situation Room. Keep it here for more. In the next hour, let's talk about extrajudicial killings and forced disappearances of people, right? Yep, we'll have Imlu with us in the studio. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. KANU Party Secretary General Nick Salat has advised party leader Gideon Moi to abandon his One Kenya Alliance partner Kalonzo Musyoka and join ODM Jubilee Core-led Azimio la Umoja. Speaking during the launch of the KANU's 2022 manifesto, Salat said the Wiper leader is taking so long to make up his mind and there is no time to babysit him anymore. He further pointed out that with or without Kalonzo, KANU was going to join the Azimio movement led by ODM leader Raila Odinga.
We have to be in government for this manifesto to be meaningful. Chairman, hata kama ni sera la kakuli, sijui tumpatie nini ndio akubali. Ningependa tu chairman, usikae sana na hii mtu, kama asikii wachana na yeye twende. Kama asikia ukweli, kama asikii wacha tu. Hata kama ni kukaa na yeye na kubabysit yeye mpaka saa ngapi, wacha tu chairman. We love you. With him or without him, let's go. We just have chair. Twende. Ni nini unakosa?
Musyoka has remained cagey on supporting Odinga for the third time in his quest for presidency, arguing that this time round Odinga should return the favour and support him. On March 1st, during a press conference, Kalonzo tabled a 2017 agreement with Odinga as the reference document for coalition talks with the Azimio La Umoja movement. This as KANU chairman Gideon Moi said that members will now be required to adhere to the manifesto during the election campaign at all times. The manifesto has the slogan "Back to Business."
KANU has set out its agenda for the nation through its Back to Business manifesto of change. This plan of action outlines our path to a resilient and developed Kenya that we desire, with deep appreciation of our past progresses, present situations, and envisaged future. We lay particular emphasis on sustainable economy, uchumi na kazi, ICT, agriculture and food security, public finance and national debt, and we've said that we'll reduce that from 16 to 11% gradually over 5 years, and of course, corruption.
Nakuru South Member of Parliament Moses Kuria has faulted ODM leader Raila Odinga's decision to join forces with the Jubilee Party ahead of the August general election. Kuria says that the new pact between the Azimio La Umoja leader and the Jubilee Party has diminished his chances of securing the Mount Kenya region votes. The MP said the former premier stands a better chance of clinching the presidency without incorporating the ruling party under the Azimio umbrella. Now, the Court of Appeal rejected the petition by Ahmed Ali Mukhtar to remain in office as Wajir governor after the High Court reinstated embattled Governor Mohammed Abdi, who successfully challenged his impeachment. Mukhtar, who was serving as the county deputy governor, took over the office of the governor following the impeachment of Abdi in May 2021. In a ruling delivered at the appellate court in Nyeri, Justices Imana Laibuta, Wanjiru Karanja and Hannah Kwengu argued that the decision not to grant Mukhtar the injunctive relief sought pending appeal would by no means render his intended appeal nugatory. Now, Keroche Breweries has appealed to Kenya Revenue Authority to give the company an 18-month grace period on the taxes arrears owed. Speaking at a press briefing, Chief Executive Officer Tabitha Karanja stated that the company is willing to go back to the table with KRA to come up with a more realistic payment plan. Further, the CEO also noted that following her assessment on the matter, the issues between KRA and Keroche Breweries were not political but just business. And the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has confirmed that 26 Kenyan students trapped in Ukraine had been evacuated and were on their way to Poland. The ministry reported that the 26 students were evacuated from Sumy through the humanitarian corridor to Poltava and are currently on their way to Lviv on Ukraine border with Poland. According to Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the students were under the escort of officials from the honorary consulate of the Republic of Kenya in Ukraine, led by Dr. Anatoly Kovalenko, the honorary consul. On March 1st, Ministry of Foreign Affairs coordinated the evacuation of 78 Kenyans in Ukraine, and according to the statement, one student arrived back in the country, having opted to return home. And an apparent Russian airstrike destroyed a children's hospital in the besieged Ukrainian port of Mariupol on Wednesday night, triggering renewed global outrage 2 weeks into Moscow's invasion of its ex-Soviet neighbor. The strike came as Mariupol's mayor said more than 1,200 civilians had died in the 9-day Russian siege of the southern port, with people left cowering without power or water under the barrage of shelling. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
SpiceFM. Nakuru.
2 minutes after 7 o'clock, and what are we seeing on the roads this morning? It's building up on the Thika Superhighway, getting into the city. Really slow all the way towards that junction at Outer Ring, but not crazy beyond that. Kiambu Road also started quite early as well. We have some traffic there, in and outbound traffic. We're looking at a couple of lanes inbound and likely to pick up in a short while. Coming out of Westlands, it's already busy, thumping with traffic in some places. And Uhuru Highway, where it was clear and free before, that has definitely changed, going out towards the city centre and then towards Westlands. Langata Road not doing too badly right now. Folks are able to get in and out without too much of an issue, but that will definitely pick up as we get into traffic hour. All right, where else are we seeing drama? On the Eastern Bypass, in and outbound traffic, and we're going towards that AP Training College junction. We'll see some of that continuing. Coming off Kangundo Road and then going into the city, joining with Outer Ring, that also continues. All right, let's keep an eye on things. On Mombasa Road this morning as well, that's also picking up. Coming from the Weybridge, it's moving really, really slowly. All right, let's keep talking. Let's know what's going on where you are, and let's see how we can make it easier for folks to traverse the streets this morning. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation
7
Room,
after 7.
the only way to start your
day
day.
of March 2022. 4 more days until we see what April tells us. Oh, blame it on Russia. Oh, we'll see. 4 more days. We'll be talking about forced disappearances and extrajudicial killings this hour. We have a guest from the Independent Medical Legal Unit. Before we introduce him, let's hear the Sahrawi proverb.
When trouble knocks on your door and you say there is no seat, trouble tells you not to worry because they have brought their own.
Trouble knocks on your door.
And you say,
mkubwa.
There's no, I can't accommodate you, really there is no seat. Trouble tells you,
don't worry.
You need not worry on this particular matter. I came with my own seat.
Yeah. I came prepared. What else don't you have? A bed? Don't worry.
Don't worry. This seat, you can convert it into a bed immediately.
I'll sleep, yeah. Food? No.
Don't worry. What do you think this bag has?
I'm here to stay.
Yes.
I'm here for you. This is a proverb from Western Sahara.
Yes.
Okay.
And as you say, there are those who would argue about it as to whether Western Sahara exists.
Is a country or not?
Yep.
Or just a region?
A region. A war has been raging in that place for the longest time.
Yeah.
Yes.
With people seeking recognition and independence.
Precisely.
Some countries have recognized, some don't. Formally, the United Nations hasn't.
Folks are continuing with their life, man.
That actually is the truth, isn't it?
Yes.
Maybe as long as we have this status quo, people are fine. As long as we have like that. Just like Somaliland and Puntland and Mogadishu. Okay. Let's introduce our guest. Kevin Mwangi is a program officer at the Independent Medical Legal Unit. Good morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the show. Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Thank you for having me.
We're talking about forced disappearances and extrajudicial killings and why this is an issue in the country. First of all, let's do some definitions. What is forced disappearance?
So the correct term is enforced disappearance.
Enforced?
Yes.
Okay.
And so there are three areas in which we look at for us to define what enforced disappearances is. One of them is the deprivation of the right to liberty by someone without your consent or without your will. So you have to be deprived of your right to liberty without you willingly giving consent for that. Secondly, it has to be done by government officials and not civilians. And then thirdly, the government has to either deny knowledge of the deprivation of liberty or conceal or deny the knowledge of the whereabouts of where that person is. And enforced disappearances doesn't have to have a time. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 10 years, 50 years. It doesn't have a time limit to it, a time component to it, as long as those three components are attached to it. And then the other thing we need to know that it's permanent. It continues until the person is found. So it doesn't stop after 2 years. If I'm not found in 100 years, I'm still a victim of enforced disappearance.
Okay. Why does it have to be by government? Because what stops it from being enforced if I go kidnap CT and I lock him in my basement, for example, and I have a weapon? What then characterizes it as enforced because I'm a civilian?
So we are guided by international law, given that Kenya does not have a definition on its own on national legislation. And so the UN guideline that gives us this definition is the International Convention for the Protection of All Persons Against Enforced Disappearances. And so that's where we derive that definition from. Yes.
I'm asking this because, I mean, maybe just kind of like jumping the gun a little bit, but there have been disappearances of individuals who've been held by folks who are posing as law enforcers. They're not government. They're not. They're individuals who may have taken on the persona for a time period, but they are civilians as well. So, and we've known them to be forced disappearances. We've known those individuals to have been disappeared, as it were.
Yeah.
So then, would they then be classified as something different because they fall into the numbers of folks who've disappeared?
Yes. It's the same thing as extrajudicial killings and, let's say something like murder. Okay, technically they will be charged under murder, but to hold the government to a higher accountability, in layman language, you call them extrajudicial killings. So we don't say a civilian killed you in extrajudicial killings by civilians. We only say by government officials.
Okay.
This definition came in to just ensure that we hold the government to a higher accountability.
Okay.
Is it also because history has given us ample evidence that when it comes to disappearances of large numbers of people, or given the powers that government have, that they have at their behest the means to be able to do precisely this? They can arrest people, they can hold you without, with reasons best known to them. Is it because of the powers that government has and what history has shown us to be the way in which certain governments have used their powers in subjugating the people? Is this why we hold the government to a higher accountability?
Yes. You'll find that primarily in African countries, you'll find that enforced disappearances happens within the context of political dynamics. So you'll find like there was a massacre in Congo, Republic of Congo, and there was a case even before the African Commission in which it held the Republic of Congo accountable for acts of enforced disappearances. And so, yes, to answer your question, yes. And to also go back to her question, if the government has knowledge, there's what we call acquiescence. I know that someone is trying to abduct you, for example, and then I do nothing about it. I'm party to partisan to that disappearance, for example. And that we can say is a form of enforced disappearance.
Okay.
Or if a government official gives a civilian directive to go and, someone to abduct someone, that can also be a form of enforced disappearance.
Okay.
Yes, it's an act or an omission.
Okay.
Yes.
But at what point then do you say that this is enforced disappearance? When someone has disappeared and you don't know who picked them? So you just know the last time they were seen was at such and such a place. They were en route to Nakuru, for instance, right? They've gone missing. What do you categorize that as? Is it enforced disappearance or is it just disappearance?
It's disappearance.
It's just disappearance.
Because there has to be a component in which the government officials are involved and they have full knowledge of where the whereabouts of these people are. So without those two components, I cannot categorically say that it's enforced disappearances.
Then in that case, Kevin, then you have very few numbers of people that you talk about enforced disappearance. Because even in many cases, you'll talk about somebody who's been arrested by the police and then they haven't been seen since. But if you go to police records, they tell you, we released that person. So, practically and technically speaking, this is not enforced disappearance because the police released the person. It's just that the person was then abducted out there by people unknown to the police and unknown to the family.
Let me say that at IMLU, when we categorize a case of enforced disappearance, it is a case that we have actually established those three cadets of enforced disappearances. So a person is arrested. For example, let me take your case. Is arrested and disappears. He was not booked at the OB number. He was not charged with anything. He got arrested, and we for sure know it's the security officials. They had badges. We have witnesses who saw it, but the person is nowhere to be found. I even have a case of where someone was taken to court. They were charged. They went through the whole cycle. Then they were released on bail. On bail. But on being released, and this happened in Nakuru, the security officials took them outside that courtroom, and there were many. Even the magistrate saw it. Yes.
And they've disappeared since then.
They've never been found.
So how many cases are you dealing with currently at IMLU of enforced disappearance?
As of last year, we have only had 2 cases. Yes.
Now, who are those 2?
Like I've said that there were 2 individuals who were abducted on that.
And since then, nothing?
Nothing.
No word to the family?
No.
What do the security agencies say?
They deny it.
Okay. In the case of then extrajudicial killings, this is where we say, let's say somebody has died in police custody, is it?
Yeah.
Or somebody has then been shot by police or died in the hands of the police, Kenjo Koma brothers and such, right? Do we also look at cases where the last time somebody was seen was with police officers and then they turn up somewhere dead at Rivayala, for instance? That's also part of extrajudicial killings.
Yes. Yes. Like I said, you'll find that enforced disappearances, what normally happens, it's a series of human rights violations. So even someone is abducted and then they're tortured, they're found dead.
Okay. What's the correlation? When you look at, say, these disappearances, there are countries where you report more such disappearances than others. Is there commonality? Is there, for instance, can you typify the sort of governments that in whose control we see such incidences in greater numbers? Or that's question number 1. Question number 2 is there a certain category of citizen in these countries who seems to be targeted more than others?
Yes. You'll find that, let me start with your second question.
Okay.
You'll find that there's this narrative.
The last shall be first in this instance. Yes.
You'll find that there's a narrative that the courts are now not doing their work. And so security officials will say, why do we have to take someone through the court process? They're released on bail, they come back and do the same crime. It becomes a cycle. And so security officials are taking the law into their arms. So first it will be enforced disappearance, then it will lead to extrajudicial killings. That's the cycle we see in our files. Yes. Then secondly, the first question, in countries that have respect for human rights primarily, like every other country, You'll not see, and where the leaders are actually, there's political goodwill for that, you will not see a lot of enforced disappearances. But where there's democracy is not even there, you'll find that enforced disappearances, you rise against the government, you disappear and you're killed, and that's the end of the story. And then we'll find this in the ICC, at the African Commission cases, the cases before them. Yeah.
So what severity are we looking at in Kenya? Is it a problem big enough that some attention needs to be paid? What are we looking at then in terms of numbers? If you talked about enforced disappearances, for example, in the 2 cases that we saw last year, and not talking about extrajudicial killings, we've heard from several groups over time that the numbers, unfortunately, are quite high. The River Yala incident, for example, incidences that have been happening over the last 18 months or so, 67 was the last count of bodies that have been retrieved from that river. And 87% of those seem to have some foul play in terms of what was done to these bodies before death. So then implicating law enforcement at some point, or at least some kind of foul play. So how much of a problem is this in Kenya right now?
Missing Voices, as of last year, had 32 cases. So one life is one too many. And you see, you have no recourse in law. Kenya does not have legislation on enforced disappearance. It has not ratified this international convention. One of the other things I also do is I work at the African Commission on Human and People's Rights, where I sit in a group where we develop policies, do missions on enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings in the 55 African countries. And so one life is one too many. We're currently developing guidelines to just ensure that Africa has, a policy on enforced disappearances, because we're realizing this is a problem and it's underreported. People don't even understand what is enforced disappearance. And so once they don't understand that, how do I report a violation that I actually do not even understand? So the numbers could be many, but it's only that we get to hear about the very few cases. And they have no remedy or no recourse. And so that's a problem that needs to be addressed. Because under let's say in court, I can only go under habeas corpus, and that's if a person was in custody. Other than that,
if police say we don't have him, that's it.
Yes.
And we didn't pick him in the first place. So apart from a lack of then a legal and regulatory framework, what else are the challenges? I mean, because we're looking at it from just going back to what City was saying, there are very many cases where if you look at the chronology of events, this is somebody who has had history and run-ins with the law.
Yeah.
Gone through the process, back out in the streets, back into the process, back out in the streets, and then the next thing you see is they turn up dead. And everything apart from the legal route will tell you that this one was finished off by police officers. Do you at some point sit back and ask the police officers, what challenges are you facing? What is it that you require in terms of even policy or regulation or new legislation that can help you so that you don't have to go through this? Because I'd imagine by the time the police officers are deciding, you know what now, come on, it's become too much. Let's just finish this problem once and for all. They're dealing with something. There's something they're dealing with.
I'd say it's a very multidimensional issue. One is, after the 2007 and 2008 general elections, there was a lot of human rights violations that happened. And there was a task force that was called the Ransley Task Force that was formed to look into police reforms. And they gave very good recommendations. And one of them was the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution, because at the time, the police were the perpetrators, the prosecutors, and the investigators. And so in such a flawed system, justice was never to be realized. So there needed to be separation of these entities and also create mechanisms in which justice and accountability can be realized. And so one of them was the Office of Director of Public Prosecution. One of the most crucial ones was the National Coroner Service Act that was enacted in 2017, in which it gives an avenue for forensic documentation to be conducted in many of these crime scenes.
Okay.
I'll give you an example of, there's a lady who died in 2018 who was hacked in Eldoret. And we all saw that the police officer went and took the murder weapon with their own bare hands, which means they tampered with evidence, which means the credibility of that evidence probably will never see And so the work of the coroner is to come. We have all seen CSI or the investigative series. We always have a coroner in that, where they come to the body, they collect the forensic evidence, they work with the police officers and the investigators until the very end. And so that has not been set up. So as of right now, a person dies, the way the forensic evidence is collected is not to the standards that would ensure that this, even if I take this court file to court, it's bulletproof, that we have worked with professionals throughout this journey and we have a case. And so that's some of the issues that
Why
we have.
has this law not been operationalized? I mean, it was passed, like you said, it was assented to by the president in 2017. Up to date, the Office of the National Coroner has not been established. Why?
I'd say lack of political goodwill. But Kenya has this habit of passing very many laws and then just shelving them. But I'd say lack of political goodwill would be my best
Has there
bet.
been push by organizations such as yours?
Yes.
And what feedback do you get?
They tell us it's a funding issue. But they are the ones who create the budgets. So if you want to create this office, you have to set aside. I can set aside money to create this office. They have to be the ones to set aside money to create this office.
Okay.
And sorry, go ahead and do.
In relation to this, just recently, this high-class, world-class expert lab was established, the DCI. Took some 30-odd years to, finish, but that has come about. Would you say, in the work that's being done, does that give any kind of impetus or any kind of encouragement to the work that we are hoping would be done when concerns extrajudicial killings in the country? Because one of the things that you've talked about is evidence pointing to who or whom would have perpetrated here or there. So now finally there's this facility that is up. And then one of the questions that came about was that, is it going to be properly manned and staffed by folks and the right equipment that is needed? Does that give any kind of encouragement to this process that we've been hoping would play out to find these individuals whose lives would have been lost at the hands of whomever?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because who's conducting the extrajudicial killings? So let me give you an example. IPOA, the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, does not have a forensic lab. So if they need a bullet analyzed to tell you which bullet this gun came from, they have to send it to the DCI. The DCI is part of the security forces. Could be a DCI person who conducted this. So they're supposed to be an Independent Policing Oversight Authority.
But they still have to take it to the folks that they're overseeing.
Exactly. Okay. So that's the same thing, the issue I have with the lab. If they have to still go back and investigate themselves, basically, which is what we are saying, then it doesn't solve the issue of extrajudicial killings. IPOA should have their own lab to do their own forensics, and they have a department that's
is supposed to do that.
Yes.
If indeed the coroner's offices were set, according to what the government had proposed, were they supposed to be in all the counties? Were they supposed to be in regions? How were they supposed to be set up?
Yes, so there's supposed to be a coroner general who will oversee it and will be based in Nairobi. Then each county will have the coroners. So it was supposed to be decentralized to each of the counties. And it's an independent body. So that's where also the accountability comes into play. It's supposed to be an independent body.
Do we have clarity as to where the funding was supposed to come from or to which ministry they were supposed to be nestled in?
It was supposed to be another Ministry of Justice. So which is not under the current regime, has not been
There's
established.
no Ministry
Yes.
of Justice.
And
The
so-
matter was actually, I think, in court where
It was.
the AG said, well, it's Minister for Justice. I am not.
I'm not the one.
Ask the president. I am not here to suffer.
So that has been the quagmire in all this.
So who answers for them?
Them?
Who answers for these? I mean, and I
For
think that
failure
is
to
where we are
implement.
right now. Who answers for failure to implement? Who answers for the lack of solutions or lack of closure for these lives that have been lost? 32 cases, 67 here, odd 89 here. Amnesty gives their own numbers. IMLU gives numbers. You know, we're looking at lives lost in the hundreds of thousands. In the hundreds, right? With no explanation. Who answers?
I'd say IPOA has been doing a great job. We have actually seen 8 convictions on extrajudicial killings over the last 10 years of their 12 years. 11 years of their existence.
Okay, between 10 and 12.
Yes.
Okay.
Of their existence.
Yeah.
And I think that entity was formed to ensure that there is accountability
Right.
for these heinous crimes, but then accountability only for the National Police Service. You'd realize that from our case files, we are now seeing the Kenya Wild Service, the Kenya Forest Service, who don't have an oversight mechanism over them. And so it's now making us go back to questioning, how do we now ensure that all the security ambits have an oversight mechanism over them? Yes.
Let's
But
take
at
a
the
break.
end of the day, it boils down to the government.
All of them are nestled under some ministry. So obviously, even if it's the Kenya Wildlife Service, there is the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife. If it's the forestry, there's a Ministry of Environment. There's a minister in charge who's the policy and everything head of that. Anyway, let's take this quick break. 28 minutes to 8, Kenya's biggest conversation. Kevin Mwangi is a program officer at the Independent Medical Legal Unit, IMLU. We are talking about enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings, the states of these two in the country and what needs to be done so we can address this. Let's take this break, take a look at the traffic and weather. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Dare for fast relief from fever? Take Cipladon.
Sunny conditions in Nairobi at 17, highs of 27 and lows of 16. At 13, Nakuru is sunny. We'll see highs of 30 and lows of 12. Sunny conditions in Nyeri at 14, highs of 28 and lows of 11. While at 13, Eldoret is sunny. We'll see highs of 27 and lows of 12. The rain stopped in Mombasa for now. 26, highs of 32 and lows of 25. Mostly sunny at 27. In Malindi, highs of 31 and lows of 25. The sun is out now in Kisumu at 20, highs of 31 and lows of 19. It's also sunny at 18 in Kakamega, highs of 33 and lows of 15. Rain also stopped in Kampala at 20, highs of 29 and lows of 19. It's still raining in Dar es Salaam, however, at 27. We'll see highs of 32. Lagos, mostly clear at 29. Warm high of 34 today. And it's still raining in Johannesburg, 15 degrees. We'll see highs of 24 and lows of 15. The rain is coming down in Kinshasa as well at 26. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 22. North Airport Road, coming off Mombasa Road, just at the Cabanas there and going towards Outer Ring. We're seeing quite some traffic there. Inbound traffic also piling up from the Way Bridge out towards the SGR. Outbound traffic on Mombasa Road on Imaradime heading out in that direction. Really, really slow today. Not quite sure what's going on there. Give us a heads up if you are aware. The Southern Bypass looks pretty good. It's going to cross over Langata Road and go the long way into the city. Probably a better option than staying on Langata Road, which has built up quite some going towards the roundabout. Rilo Dingaway taking on some closer to the roundabout on Gong Road today, and then going out towards Community into the city. That traffic continues. On the eastern side, we see Jogo Road also piling up. Let's go back west for a minute, where the whole area, Chiromo to Ring Road Westlands, and then out towards Waiakiwe, James Gishoro, piling up quite some. Red Hill Link Road, guys, use that as an option. The Thika Superhighway is doing some magic this morning because traffic is not bad here at all. Inbound traffic looking good. You only get to bumper situation right past the Utali Drift, and then there you should be all right. Kiambu Road and Limuru Road piling up as well. Let's keep an eye on those, and then let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings.
24 minutes to 8.
94.4 Spice FM.
The Independent Medical Legal Unit. We are talking about enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings in the country and how we are doing. Kevin, I want to come back to that issue of what we often accuse the police officers of doing, and this is extrajudicial killings. Do you at some point sit back, even you as Kevin individually, and see there's some justification to this? Or there's a reason why I can understand where the police officers are coming from?
I can say there's no justification to it, but we have been doing research just to see what could be the issue, because police reforms has been happening since the 90s, and we're not seeing much change. And so one of the things we have been trying is to see whether they can get psychological support, because they work in a very, what can I put it? In a very
tough.
Yes, and they need the support that they can get. And so that's some of the issues we've been doing. So IMLU works in two ways. It works on response and prevention. So we have been working on police reforms, advocating for them to be given better welfare, the welfare of the police officers. This includes their housing as well, et cetera, yeah.
Paint a picture of how that would then result, because you talk about performance and result, right?
Yeah.
How would that then result? How would better welfare of police, for example, result in fewer numbers, for example, of extrajudicial killings?
You see, when you look at the psychological support, some of them are maybe suffering from a mental, let's say PTSD. And when they're there in the field, they're maybe reacting to not primarily the situation, they're reacting to their own personal. We have seen even them killing their spouses as well.
Killing each other.
Killing each other. So it's gone beyond that, and it's becoming a situation that has to be contained. Yes.
What would be some noticeable elements, noted and noticeable elements in these police reforms? Take a 10-year block, for example. What are some distinct things that you could say? Because you said, look, we can't necessarily stop the killing, but we can reform. And one of the things that we've been harping on is the reform of the police service, for example. So what are some noted and noticeable things that you can see have changed or gotten better just the last 10 years within the police force that we can say, this one has improved so we can see better outcomes?
I can say one of them is that there's a better relationship between them and the community in some areas with what we're calling the community policing, because they don't work in isolation. My neighbor knows more about what I am doing than the police officer at the police station, and is able to, in case I'm engaging in a crime, alert them. So there's collaboration between, unlike previously where it was us versus them, which is where the culture of the antagonistic relationship between the police officers and the community has come from.
Okay.
So I'd say that is a very remarkable one. There's also collaboration that has been happening with the police as well, between civil society and the police, in where maybe they see they have capacity gaps, for example, and they need training on some issues. They're able to reach out to us, and we're able to train them, and there's some change. There are good elements within the National Police Service. Not all of them are bad. Most of them are good, but we have some elements in there as well.
Okay.
And as even we go to the election, we have seen a lot of preparedness this time around from the National Police Service.
Let me ask this question, Kevin, if I may. In your research, have you looked at countries where, for instance, the welfare of police officers are well looked after, meaning there is a consistency in it and there are certain assurances in terms of, say, the housing, in terms of social welfare, in terms of just... Yes. Do we find that in such countries, if they exist, that you have a reduced to a non-existent situation where you have extrajudicial killing, as opposed to one where the police force do not have these benefits?
I'd say it helps, but it doesn't make it a non-issue.
Yes.
Like in the US, we still see it as well.
We do.
So it's also a culture that is there. I'll give you an example of Kiganjo has a very benign human rights component when they're being trained.
There's a unit.
There's a unit.
For human rights.
But when you get outside the police, after Kiganjo, you're told your human rights imeishi hapo. Kwingine ni story ingine. So there's also the issue of culture within the system, which has to be. It's like corruption. You know, we have accepted corruption as
part of life.
Part of
our culture.
So human rights also, it's slowly getting into the National Police Service. It's a work in progress. There needs to be a culture shift as well.
Are there some reforms or support that is required on the system of justice itself? Because, yes, I hear what you say, that there are police officers who are coming to work with PTSD, they're dealing with other issues, and so their fingers are light on the trigger, and they'll end up shooting somebody and injuring them, maiming them, or killing them. There are other cases where police officers are basically dealing with the same criminal over and over again, and they're like, look, I've got to end this, because every day a criminal is out there is not the same way as every day somebody else is out there. When a criminal is out there, that's a danger to the police officer and a danger to community, to the society. Say, for example, when we see on social media, Hesiwa Dandora, it's said that it's run by these people who have knowledge of the workings of the police. Young, known criminals in the community, they are known, and everybody in the community knows that this so-and-so is a criminal. And the message is sent out there, look, so-and-so, you've been arrested, you've been taken to court, you're out on bail, you went in, you were incarcerated for a year, you came out, you're back into these ways. Come on, change your ways, or we'll give you 3 months. You can see where the cops are coming from. I mean, for how long are we going to deal with this with you? What needs to happen to support the police officers who are dealing with this frustration, so that in the system, then the police officer's burden is reduced?
The quality of investigations, because that is what determines whether someone is the prosecution actually gets a verdict or not, a guilty verdict or not. So if the criminal investigations are shoddy, then it will not. That's why I go back to the coroners. Who's collecting this forensic evidence? So you'll get a file that is not making sense.
Yeah.
So you'll take it to court, it will be dismissed, we are back again. So it's the quality of investigations that we are conducting.
So in addition to National Coroner Service, what else? And I completely hear you when you say that. It's the quality of our investigations. What else do we need to see so that when a case is being presented to the DPP, that case is rock solid?
I'd say as well as the human resource, the police are overstretched. And so you'll find how many cases can they investigate adequately when they're very overstretched. So we also need to, back to the welfare, to ensure that we have adequate police officers according to the international recommended standards that we have. In 2007 and 2008 general elections, they said that we couldn't, there was no way we could contain what was happening given our numbers. There was no way. And you understand, because that's the honest truth. And so we need to ensure that the National Police Service is adequately resourced. Secondly is that they have a benign budget. And so you'll call them and I don't have money for fuel. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
Because as of the Inspector General is not the holder of the police budget. It's still held at the ministry level. And so he cannot even be able to properly,
He can't budget.
Exactly.
Because he doesn't even know how much money.
It's like someone else budgeting for your house.
Right.
So you'll find that the resources that they're working with are not up to standard. They even recently just reviewed the P3 form. Even a P3 form, for example, you need to go to a cyber cafe, print it, come with it to the police station, then go with it to the clinician to fill it.
Yeah.
So then, it brings you back to the question then that who is to be held responsible? Because if we're saying that we're taking this battle to the doorstep of the National Police Service, whose hands are tied, regardless of what you're looking at, there's competition for funding from the national level. The government will tell you, well, look, here are so many things that we have to do. Are we going to then apply more in terms of budget to this because we've seen that, yes, something needs to be done about it? Or are we going to now put everybody on a list and say, well, let's just chip off as much as we can? At whose door does this responsibility rest, really? Because we're basically saying here that, the NPS doesn't have as much power as it ought to, because clearly they don't control their own budget. If they're willing to do certain things in a certain way, again, they're powerless because they don't pull the strings of the purse. So whose doorstep really ought this fight to be taken to?
I'd say the president. It's the goodwill of the political ambit at the time. That's where everything lies.
It goes to the very top.
Yes.
The head of government.
Yes. Because you see, it involves the Treasury, it involves the Ministry of Interior, it involves so many departments. And who oversees them? Who oversees the cabinet secretaries at the end of the day?
It's also been stated at times, you know how rumors percolate in this country, that the government or the police service even sets up specific squads whose job is to eliminate people. Given what you do, is this just a rumor? And should we continue treating it as a rumor, or is there some truth to it?
Are there death squads in the police service?
Should we not talk about it?
I have personally not engaged with them, but I have heard from witnesses who have stated that in Dandora, Mathare, there's a killer squad of police. Yes, and people ask me, why are they not held accountable? Because everybody is scared. I will know, but I want to save my life. So I'll come and share it here. Then when a person comes to do the investigations, I don't want to speak because I don't want to go.
You also don't want to disappear.
Exactly.
So even as IMLU, it's the same kind of thing. I mean, if all this time IMLU and the other civil society organizations dealing with the security sector have heard and come across this information of killer squads within the police service, and none of them has ever actually come out and said, indeed, these are the officers involved, or this is how the killer squads have been operating. Is this for that same fear?
No, you see, as we work with case files, So facts.
Okay.
So I will be told, but no one will be willing to give me a statement.
Okay.
So if it's not documented, it remains a rumor.
But are you not able to investigate and say, okay, what I have is a string of events that are pointing me to a certain direction?
Mm-hmm.
For example, a certain disappearance, a certain death, another disappearance end up in death. Witness testimonies.
Identifying a particular character over and over again.
There's a certain character who looks this way, and this same person was quoted by somebody else in Mandera, somebody else in, then you can come up and say, you know what, we do not know the identities, but there clearly is a killer squad that has been established.
So that has been raised even before the Senate. There's a whole report the Senate released last year. That has been raised.
But
yeah,
not
much traction has been done. The rumor is that there's political. It has a political aspect to it, and so not much has been done. But even the same has been raised with IPOA, because even as IMLU, we know we can only go so far as well. Because technically we are not trained investigators, but the IPOA is. And at the end of the day, we only go to court for civil matters. They go for criminal liability, which is much more important.
You know what is also strange is that when you look at folklore, the sort of like stories or the myths that go around regarding either these groups or these individuals, you'll find they even have community support. I remember the time when I worked in Kisumu County. I used to hear from people in some of the lower rent settlements that there was a police officer. They even gave him a name. They called him Wanyama. He said, when this man was here, these criminals disappeared. Then they transferred him. So they don't, apparently, again, within folklore, a delegation went to the provincial police officer and said, look, bring this person back. You transfer this person, we are having problems. When this person was here, we were safe. In the 1970s, there's a gentleman called Patrick Shaw, a huge 6 foot something plus 300-pound gentleman who was a police reservist, but who was known to do precisely this. The thing that Eric was talking about, folklore had it that he would warn criminals. He'd go to their families and tell them, your child is A, B, C, D. Either they change or they disappear, or they will disappear. So he had a raft of informers, from sex workers to kiosk owners, meaning he was well informed. Now, what am I saying? I'm saying this culture of people who seem to deal with supposed criminal elements outside the known boundaries of the law have existed, and they have continued to thrive because the communities support them. So it isn't. The only problem now is when the disappearances are attributed to them under very unclear circumstances, and you're not even sure that the people they're dealing with who have disappeared are actually thugs.
Yeah.
Or whether they are some people whom some individuals don't particularly like, some political opponent, somebody who is human writing too much and causing discomfort for people. So when that grey area becomes grey and it moves to a different side, then the problem arises. But if I look at the chronology of events around this folklore, they are not groups or they're not individuals whom the community shun. The community actually thinks that what they're doing is a good thing. My thinking.
Are there grounds for that? Because, well, you live in this same community. You see, there are times when people feel, you know what, it's better to take the law into our own hands and deal with this issue once and for all. And when it's a police officer who's dealing with it, then you're like, they support that. Are there grounds for that? And is there a way in which we can actually have those two coexisting?
Yes, so it's both. It's both. So you'll find that they will go for people besides criminals. And I've done those cases. So those ones are the ones that come to us.
Yeah.
There are those that the community has already, you're a criminal, you've been raping our women, and we take you to court. The justice system is clearly not working for us, or it will take you 10 years to you come back to the community, you repeat the same thing. So we support the work that they're doing, which is also another thing that has been happening. So it's two-pronged. Yes.
If you were to project into the future and say, this is what the hope would be in the coming years and how we would hope the situation would change, with all the things that you have been seeing happening in the past and presently as contributing factors to the situation, what would you hope would be the case? What are indicators of how things may change? Are we looking at a maintenance of status quo, even looking forward?
No. I hope that, one, that there is a complete culture change within the National Police Service. We stopped calling it a force, but we changed the name, but not the culture. And so for me, I hope we can really change that culture and have a system where the community and the police can work hand in hand to eradicate crime and maintain law and order. I also hope that in case that does happen, we have efficient and effective accountability mechanisms. And so one of the things that creates a culture of extrajudicial killings is that people are not held accountable. And so I can do it and do it and do it and do it without me facing the law. And so if we're able to create accountability mechanisms, I think those two would be how we end up having a society where we don't a life is not lost through a gun.
Create or support, because we already have accountability mechanisms. There's an independent policing oversight authority. The police themselves have an internal affairs unit. So those exist.
There's some that need to be created, like the National Coroner Service.
Okay.
And there's some that need to be supported.
Okay.
Yes.
Kevin, we thank you very much for joining us today and for sharing with us all the knowledge that you have on matters of enforced disappearance and extrajudicial killings. Kevin Mwangi is a program officer with the Independent Medical Legal Unit, that's IMLU. It's a non-governmental organization that deals with human rights and especially looking at the justice system and the security sector, right? Have I given a good summary of what you guys do?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Ndu,
Yes.
there's something called Cipladon.
There is.
It is an effervescent tablet that works on many forms of pain.
Have you tried it?
Sindio.
Is that an answer?
So it's 2 times faster.
No. Answer my question.
The one thing though that I even heard from the experts is take a tablet, drop it in water, let it finish effervescing before you take it. You know the way people just take it and you immediately want to take it before gas ishe.
It's supposed to effervesce in your system.
No.
Then it sorts out.
This one they say let it finish effervescing.
So that effervescing is myth.
Let it finish effervescing so that the entire tablet dissolves in water, and then now you take it.
You take it. Yes.
You don't let it dissolve in your stomach. You dissolve it first.
You don't do it.
You dissolve it first in the water, and then you take it. And then you wait for the magic to happen.
But there's a nice sensation in your nose when it's still effervescing.
When it's still effervescing.
You like that, don't you?
Yes.
And as you're effervescing the effervescence, it helps out with a lot of pain, including migraine and tension headaches, period pains, and relieving the fever, aches, and pains of colds and flu. 500 mg in that taste that you like of aspartame CT, and 1,000 mg has a neutral flavor. Available at all good pharmacies. Yes, you do like it. You do.
Aspartame is what?
I'll tell you when we're talking
about it. Is it made from asphalt?
Oh, wow, no.
Carry on.
Okay. And all Chandarana supermarkets. So, as you do that and you feel that tingly sensation, what's happening here is that 2 times faster pain relief for you than your regular paracetamol. But then even after all of this, which is highly doubtful, but if it happens that you're still experiencing these symptoms, please seek medical advice.
Kabisa. Keep it here for more conversations. It's Justice Thursdays. We have a judge joining us in the next hour, and this is Lady Justice Cecilia Gedua. She is the president of the International Association of Women Judges Kenya chapter. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President Uhuru Kenyatta has called on the international community to lift sanctions against Zimbabwe, saying the restrictions are hurting the Southern African nation. The president termed the sanctions as illegal and assured Zimbabwe of Kenya's continued advocacy to ensure that the restrictions are lifted.
We have also continued to emphasize our strong determination to continue with our support of Zimbabwe against the illegal sanctions that have been imposed on that country and continue to cause undue problems, issues, and trouble for the people of Zimbabwe. And this we consider to be unfair, for these hardships are artificially created, and we continue to call on the international community to remove these illegal sanctions.
President Kenyatta spoke at State House Nairobi during a joint press briefing with his visiting Zimbabwean counterpart Emmerson Mnangagwa, shortly after the two heads of state led their respective delegations in bilateral talks. Now, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe now says the government will in the coming days be reviewing the COVID-19 containment measures following continued low positivity rate. Kagwe said these are a day that registered 14 new COVID-19 cases, citing that they are starting the trend to make an informed decision. The CS also revealed some of the details in a deal to put up a vaccine manufacturing factory through an agreement with the US firm Moderna Pharmaceuticals. The masks on faces are becoming rarer in public spaces, with Kenyans breaking the recommended social distancing of at least 1.5 meters. The Ministry of Health has in the same period been recording reduced positivity rates, falling below 5% in what is described as flattening the curve. Newswire, however, continues to urge you to continue observing the protocols. Take care of yourself and those that you love. Now, the Kenya Defence Forces troops killed one Al-Shabaab militant and injured several others in Milimani, Lamu County. The troops were part of Operation Amani Boni were reported on patrol when they encountered a terrorist cell on the Milimani-Bauri main supply route. One AK-47 rifle and 3 magazines were recovered from the scene, while the soldiers are presently on the hunt for the militants who fled with bullet wounds. And the new United Nations Office of Counter-Terrorism in Nairobi will boost national, regional and international efforts to combat terrorism. Interior CS Dr. Fred Matiang'i held the premier regional office as a pragmatic appreciation of Kenya's strategic location and its history in fighting terror. The new office will offer East African region member countries collaborations and partnerships in combating the Al-Shabaab and other terror groups in the region. And the Center for Disease Control and Prevention Country Director Dr. Mark Walters has lauded the county government of Busia for recording an increase in the uptake of COVID-19 vaccines, where 282,908 people have been inoculated. Walters said he was pleased with the county and the progress made there in terms of scaling up vaccines to manage the spread of COVID-19. Now brace yourself for dry taps today. This is after the Nairobi City Water and Sewerage Company Managing Director, Engineer Nahashin Muguna, said this follows a major water leaks in the raw water pipeline. In a statement, Muguna said during this time, they will strive to complete the repairs as soon as possible and resume water supply to the city. You are being urged to ensure that you use water sparingly as they wait for the repairs to be completed. Now, SATO, an award-winning social business tackling the global sanitation and hygiene challenge, is upgrading toilets in 24 schools across the country over the next 1 year to provide a clean, fresh and safe learning environment for over 50,000 children. The upgrade involves converting the school's open latrines to closed flushable toilets with a toilet pan. This aims to contribute towards delivering better learning outcomes in Kenya. The initiative is part of SATO's Schools Toilet Enhancement Program, which targets upgrading toilets in 144 schools across the 6 countries in Africa, where it has a footprint. The initiative targets reaching over 7.2 million children across the continent. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Alceto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Uhuru Highway going into the city this morning, and we're going to see some traffic as it gets out towards CBD and then towards Westlands. That continues. Rilo Dinga Way having some traffic as you're going towards Ngong Road, and that's piling up quite some. Langata Road, an absolute mess from about an hour ago, and that's going to continue for some time from all indications. And Jogo Road as well, spilling over to Landis, and then towards the Kamkunji roundabout into the CBD. Everything is leading to the CBD this morning. Quite some traffic on the Thika Superhighway. It has not been so bad today, which is a good thing. We're seeing traffic just far back as Survey now. And Kiambu Road, some traffic in and outbound. Same thing on Limuru Road today, going out towards Parklands, Westlands, Ring Road, Westlands, Waiyaki Way. That whole mess continues this morning. We are in traffic hour proper, but today not too crazy. Hopefully you can remain just so for some time. Let us know what's happening in your neck of the woods. If it gets sticky, let us know. We can inform other folks ahead of time. Get you to use alternate routes. Shall we do that? Let's do it and keep traffic moving. This morning, talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
7 minutes after 8. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, The Situation Room, broadcasting on SpiceFM. We are live streaming the show on YouTube and Facebook. And for the next 1 hour, we are also live on KTN Home. This lovely Thursday, the 10th day of March. Karibuni sana. We have a new guest in the studio, and this is a judge of the High Court. Before we introduce her, let's hear the day's proverb.
It's from?
Western Sahara.
Right. When trouble knocks on your door and you say there is no seat, trouble tells you not to worry because they came with their own.
When trouble knocks on your door and you say, oh, there's no seat, trouble tells you, relax, I came with my own seat. I'm all sorted, right? And also when trouble comes and tells you, and you start saying, I also didn't have a bed, trouble tells you, don't worry, I came well prepared. Although I'm seeing Julia is saying, trouble doesn't ask for a bed. Trouble does not come with the intention to sleep.
Oh, they most certainly do. Forget sleeping. They come to reside sometimes.
Yeah, but not to sleep. Trouble has no intention to... It'll be awake. You sleep, you'll find me awake.
And keep you awake as
you
well.
are awake. Okay, and keep you awake as well. Once inside the house, at no time does it even doze off. At no time. The Honourable Lady Justice Cecilia Githua is a judge of the High Court of Kenya. She joins us in the studio this morning. Hashtag Justice Thursdays, on the days when you have conversations around accessing justice and making sure that everybody understands the justice system and how it works and how easily we should be able to access justice. Judge, karibu sana to the Situation Room.
Thank you so much.
We call that the hot seat, and we thank you for accepting to come and sit on the hot seat.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. You're also the Vice President of the International Association of Women Judges Kenya chapter.
Yes,
What
I am.
is that association?
The International Association of Women Judges Kenya chapter is an association comprising of women judges and magistrates all over the Republic of Kenya. It is an affiliate of the International Association of Women Judges all over the world. The International Association of Women Judges globally is constituted by women judges who share a common value of gender justice, gender parity, and the rule of law.
So gender justice, I can understand gender parity. This is making sure that our justice systems look at gender and make sure that there's a balance there. What does gender justice mean?
Gender justice means dispensing justice with a gender perspective and ensuring that all members of both genders access justice in a manner that is in a way that advances the rule of law and makes sure that everybody is able to access justice.
Okay.
And gender justice is more biased towards the advancement of women's rights and children, and ensuring that they are able to access equal opportunity and equal access to justice in all its sense.
Okay.
Justice, when you say that it focuses on the quality of the values that you've mentioned, would I be wrong in saying that over time it has been observed perhaps that this justice doesn't exist, at least in the form that you'd want it to, so that is why you seek to have it? Or you already have it, but you want more of it? Which is which?
We already have it, but we want more of it. We want to ensure that we achieve the most that we can in a way that is spread out to cover everyone. And especially the vulnerable and the marginalized, because we consider that women are in that category and children because of the manner in which the society has been organized. As you must be aware, we have our society has been very patriarchal in nature.
Still is.
Still is. And there is therefore need for affirmative action to ensure that women, because of that organization of the society, the patriarchal nature, have always not had equal opportunity as men. And we want to make it easier for them and to ensure that they are also uplifted to, if possible, even to a situation where they occupy, they have equal chances as men, if not more.
Okay. How would you, Justice, over time, since this became something that was being followed, gender justice, gender parity, etc., what are some of the things that we are hoping would be? You've talked about opportunities. What are some of the things then that this justice would ensure happens for women, for children in society, vis-a-vis historical, cultural norms, traditional norms that have been resident? How do we see these things playing out? Are we talking about education? Are we talking about property inheritance? What are we looking at?
We are looking at all spheres of life, public life, private life, so that we are looking at education so that girls and boys are given equal opportunity at learning, ensuring that they get to go to the good schools just like boys. They get to have the same learning opportunities. We are also looking at empowerment of women so that they are able to stand on their own and also access all opportunities that are available, whether it is in the economic space or political space, leadership positions in all spheres, in all decision-making levels, whether in the private sector or in the public sector, including the judiciary, where the association prides itself to be an advocate or to spearhead advocacy on the advancement of equal opportunities for all judges, all members of staff working within the judiciary, so that everybody is at par. And we also move out there to advocate for equal opportunities for women in all other aspects of life, and mentoring young girls to aspire to be what they dream to be, to show them that they can be anything that they want to be. There's no limit. Gender is not a limit to the achievement of their career goals, or their or to the achievement of their goals. They have the potential to rise to be anything and anyone that they aspire to be.
How does this deal with the almost inevitable clash then between justice and tradition? That there are those who are the custodians of tradition, and for them, these things are seeped in tradition. And here we are trying to basically strip down those and say, look, it cannot be the way it was practiced 50 years ago. How then do you deal with those?
We deal with those by creating awareness to the general public, by holding open forums to educate the public that that those traditions no longer have a place in the modern day Kenya. In this time and age, we should look at that they should abandon those practices that bring down the value of women and that create impediments to their equal participation in nation building. And we do that by showing them the advantage of having participatory and all-inclusive the value, by showing them that there is value in embracing women in decision making, and the role that women play even in their families to advance their families, so that they see the need to shed off those traditional practices that have always impeded the growth of women. Yes.
You know, when we talk about women in leadership, oftentimes the judiciary has been cited as one of those organs of government that have really been able to shatter the ceiling when it comes to gender. You're talking about the Chief Justice is a woman, the Deputy Chief Justice is a woman, the Chief Registrar of the Judiciary is a woman. Until a couple of months ago, the president of the Judges and Magistrates Association, woman. You know, we have had women who have risen to the top. Even the first Deputy Registrar of the Judiciary under this constitution, also Gladys Boss-Cholet, woman. So you have risen, the judiciary has risen to that point where you can talk comfortably, say, you know, women in the judiciary don't really have a glass ceiling anymore. But looking at the numbers that are there, because I'm sure as the vice president of the association, you'd have those numbers. How many women judges do we have, and what percentage are they of all the judges? And how many women magistrates do we have? What percentage are they of the magistracy?
Thank you so much for that question. It is true that the judiciary has, we do not have a glass ceiling anymore. And we are very, very happy and proud of the fact that we now have the first female Chief Justice in the Republic of Kenya, as you have mentioned. And there are so many other women that hold leadership positions in the judiciary, apart from those that we have mentioned.
Yep.
I would like, for example, to state that even the principal judge of the High Court is a lady, is a female judge. Her name is Lady Justice Lydia Achode. The principal judge of the Employment and Labor Relations Court is also a woman judge. Her name is Justice Maureen Onyango. And we also have many directorates that are headed by women in the judiciary. And That is not to say that we have stopped. We are now content that we will not continue advocating for even more leadership positions in the judiciary for women. We will still continue, but so far so good. We now have 34 judges, female judges in the High Court out of 74. So that's a very good percentage. We also have in the Labor and Employment Relations Court, we have 9 female judges out of a total of, I'm not too sure of the actual number, but it should be over 20 something.
Okay.
And for the Environment and Land Court, we have over 20 female judges out of, I think, about 50 with the new judges that were appointed recently. And I'm not very certain about the number of female magistrates, but the last time we checked as an association, we found that we have overshot the 2/3, the 2/3
minimum requirement.
For the composition of magistrates.
So looking at all these numbers,
we are doing very well.
You actually have more than 2/3 in each of these courts.
Yes, we do. And also at the Supreme Court, we have 3 female judges.
3 of 7.
Out of 7.
How many
so
in
we
the
are doing
Court of
very well
Appeal?
in terms of gender.
Court of Appeal?
Court of Appeal, I'm not too sure of the numbers at the Court of Appeal, but I'm sure they have also exceeded the 2/3 that is required.
Now, I'm sure when we talk about, judges and magistrates and advocating that we have more and more women and more women rising even through the ranks in the judges and magistrates, you have to look at the pool where you're getting them from.
Yes.
And this is from the role of advocates. Okay? So can we also say that we have a substantial number of women who've been admitted to the bar?
Yes, we do. We have a substantial number of female advocates, and they are also very good at what they do. So we have a sufficient pool from which to even recruit more female judges as we go along. And I think the same situation is also replicated in the law schools. So I think we are comfortable. But that does not mean that we would not want to get even more.
What do you attribute these gains to? Because if you look at other spheres within the government, the same cannot be said of them, that they have reached this gender parity and that they've even overshot it. If anything, it's a fight that is, I'm using the word fight deliberately, still ongoing. So what do you attribute to this success that you've had in the judiciary?
I think it is because of the advocacy that has persisted for some time regarding the promotion of the rights of the girl child and ensuring that there are ways in which to support upcoming girls in terms of ensuring that they are supported throughout their school system. And once they get into the judiciary, we also try to advocate for more inclusivity in terms of recruitment and all that.
You know why I ask? Because it seems to be that in many instances where this sort of parity is sought after but isn't achieved, there is resistance from the male counterparts. So, for instance, if I look at, say, our politics, even with an enforced gender capacity, you have it in the women's rep, you still find a situation where Parliament is unable, which is predominantly men, to actually have this requirement within Parliament. Now, the argument that has been brought forth is that, well, in politics you need to be elected. So the electorate have to elect women leaders. Now, The unfortunate thing is that even when they are elected, and I look at Parliament, yes, there's representation. You'll find women who head committees and what have you. But still, that requirement in the law-making organ of the country is something that is still being sought after. And I'm arguing that it is because of resistance. Yes. So my question is this. How do you get to this parity? Is it because within your profession, the men do not have the same sort of handicap that our politicians have? Meaning, they do not have an issue with the women of this country taking up positions of leadership if they're equal to the task. And that they are quite willing to support that particular system.
Okay, I don't know whether I got your question right. Can you kindly repeat?
Yes. I'll try and repeat it word for word.
Yes.
No. I will not repeat it word for word. You see, I'm looking at this situation that we have in the courts, and it's a perfect, and it's a wonderful example to look at. Okay? And I'm seeing, and I'm looking at the resistance factor in Parliament, because it is clear that male parliamentarians resist this issue of the third gender rule. They resist it. And that is why, because every time such an issue has come up in Parliament, either it's a hung parliament, there aren't enough people, something always happens to prevent this process from taking place. So I'm saying there's resistance.
Yes.
Now, I'm saying that in the judiciary, this resistance seems to be absent.
Okay. Yes.
See, I'm waiting for you to continue.
Oh.
Do you agree?
Do you agree or don't you agree? And if you don't agree, why?
No.
Is there support from the male counterparts in the judiciary that is not seen, for example, in Parliament?
Yes.
Do we see that support, or are folks, the men in the judiciary, just concerned about getting the job done, and it doesn't matter whether it's a man or a woman doing it?
My point exactly. That is actually what I wanted to say in response to his question, because ours is a profession, and the men in the judiciary are interested in whether you have the competence and skill set that is required to perform the job. And it does not really matter that whether you are a man or a woman. And to that extent, our JSC, because it is the JSC that is responsible for the recruitment of judges and magistrates, have been very supportive and very professional in the way that they recruit for the judiciary. And it should also be remembered that these are also... it's composed of mainly judicial officers and lawyers, but it also has representation from members of the public. And the fact that it's a judicial organ, it is also very keen on following the rule of law, the law. And as you are all aware, we have that now two-third requirement as a constitutional requirement for filling positions, either elective or appointed. So I think that also plays a part in making sure that the judiciary is compliant.
Is compliant. Judge, I also have another, theory hypothesis. When you look at gender, those that have been advocating for gender equality, those that have been leading lights in this, are mainly women in the legal profession. If you look at FIDA Kenya, if you look at the leadership of FIDA Kenya over the years, including the current Chief Justice when she was lead of FIDA Kenya, including the previous Deputy Chief Justice, Justice Barras, all those, if you look at them, they're people who have been in the legal profession. So you can say the judiciary has actually had, spearheaded the issue of gender parity and gender equality. So naturally, you'd expect that because all these people are there, then they'd go, move in, occupy the space, and continue championing. And the counterparts, everybody in the system, has been hearing this conversation louder than others. People in the legal profession have been hearing the conversation around gender equality louder and also more directly from their female counterparts. So it comes in naturally. That's,
Derek, also
it
consider
rises.
This profession, you really don't have a choice. You have to interact with the law every day.
Yes.
That's their stock in trade. That's what they deal with. So not like us who deal with it when we have to. That's what those in this profession deal with every single day. So at some point, it's going to have to influence you, whether you like it or not. Yes.
Let's take a break. We're having a conversation with Justice Cecilia Githua. She is the judge of the High Court of Kenya. She's also the vice president of the International Association of Women Judges Kenya chapter. We're talking about the first International Day of Women Judges, and the judge will tell us more about this after this break. We are live on SpiceFM, KTN Home, and YouTube and Facebook. We'll be back shortly. It's 8:30.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
I like listening to you guys. You're the default radio station in my car in the morning. Even the children listen to you guys.
I agree Parliament has failed this country, and I will say it again. We have not done what we should have done.
We know in this country, the Kenya prison sector is one of the most underfunded sector.
The way it is being done and the way we're calling it Huduma Number Msema Kweli is because all records will be there. You know, there are people who are now billionaires with no history as to how they got all these assets.
Yes. Anything that the president does that is not in accord with the constitution is an illegal act. You know, he shouldn't be doing it, and he should be sitting here and trying to sort of guise it up.
I totally believe live transmission of results and allowing Kenyans to be able to view all these results. I believe that it will be impossible to steal elections.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Mostly cloudy conditions in Nairobi, highs of 27 and lows of 16 today. 17. Nakuru is sunny, highs of 30 and lows of 12. 11 will be the low in Nyeri, where it's sunny in Sampata at 16, highs of 28. While sunny at 17 in Eldoret, we'll go to highs of 27 and lows of 12. Mostly cloudy at 28 in Mombasa, highs of 32 today. We'll see highs of 31 in Malindi. It's partly sunny at 28. 22 and sunny in Kisumu, highs of 31 and lows of 19. While in Kakamega, it's sunny at 23 with highs of 33 today. Kampala, sunny now at 21, highs of 29, and we'll see highs of 32 in a partly sunny Dar es Salaam. Lagos, mostly clear at 28, highs of 34 and lows of 27. While the sun is shining now at 16 in Johannesburg, highs of 24 and lows of 15. The rain showers continue in Kinshasa at 24, highs of 31 and lows of 22. All right, going towards North Airport Road and then out towards Outer Ring. That's where we see some traffic. Imara Daima inbound and outbound issues there. Folks are using the ICT route to get out to the southern bypass, which probably is your best bet now, unless you want to stay stuck in this traffic, which is not too terrible. But, you know, if you have stuff to do, you might want to think about it. Langata Road is also quite packed as you're going towards the roundabout. Raila Odinga Way taking off some of that traffic, and so it slows down as you're getting towards the roundabout. Uhuru Highway is where you see the most action for now, going into the CBD out towards Westlands. And Muranga Road then heading towards the Globe Cinema overpass. Some traffic there. Thika Superhighway, traffic has really stopped right around the Utali Drift. Hasn't gone much further than that. Kiambu Road, on the other hand, traffic is spilling over towards Coffee Gardens this morning, and Limuru Road also quite tight as you're getting towards the city. Keep an eye on things, folks. Still in traffic hour. Let's see what happens in about 30 minutes or so, and then let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Yeah, the conversation continues on Spice FM, KTN Home and online. In the Situation Room is Okoh CT Muga, Eric Latiff, and our guest this morning, the Honourable Lady Justice Cecilia Gedhua. She is a judge of the High Court of Kenya and Vice President of the International Association of Women Judges Kenya chapter. It's the first International Day of Women Judges. Judge, I think there's something about the profession, the legal profession, and the like of the word president, the title president of the Law Society, president of the Association of Women Judges, president of the Court of Appeal, president of the Judges and Magistrates Association, president of the presidents of Kenya. Why is that so? Is there something that lawyers know about the term president that we ought to know?
And also president of the International Association of Women Judges, Kenya chapter.
There you go. You see?
And also president of the International Association of Women Judges worldwide.
Eric, let me just pause.
Is there also president of the International Jurists, also president?
No, I have not heard about that one.
ICJ? Ask.
You know, the reason why, even as you're saying it, it sounds almost strange. It also depends in the era in which you have lived. Because in this country, for the longest time, president was just one person. So these many presidents, it takes a bit of getting used to. Because when someone says, I was talking to the president, so before you knew who you're talking to.
Now it could be any.
Now, could be president of the Matatu Association. Could be president of the Mamamboga Association. It could be president of the fishery. It could be any. But again, let me then get back to Eric's question. The term president, from a legal perspective, what is it about this term, president, that makes it so powerful?
I think it's the realization that presidents, being a president gives is just a title that comes with power and as well as responsibility. And it is as long as you mention, you specify you are president in which association or organization, it will not have any consequences in terms of the law, because we know the head of state as the president of the republic, and it would only be problematic in legal sense if you were not to specify which president we are talking about, so that everybody can share in that title. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really make much difference. It is only a title that is meant to show leadership and responsibility in the certain, in the specific area in which you are leading.
Have you been in a meeting where someone comes and, Madam President, the president is calling, and you don't even know, I am the Madam President. Which other president is this who's calling? Is it the president of the Supreme Court? Is it the president of the lawyers? Is it the president? Which president? Specify. Anyway, we are celebrating the first International Day of Women Judges. What is this day about, and why is it the first?
It is today is the first day that we are celebrating the International Day for Women Judges. It is a day that was designated by the United Nations General Assembly through a resolution that was unanimous on the 28th day of April 2021. It was sponsored by 72 member states, including Arab countries, which are perceived to be very conservative in terms of embracing women participation. It was announced for the first time by the then president of the International Women Judges Association, the then Honorable Lady Justice Vanessa Ruiz, during the 15th biannual conference of the International Association of Women Judges, which was held between the 7th and May of last year, 2021. This therefore marks the very first day that we are celebrating this very important day for women judges.
Right, Justice, why is it important? Why is this day important, and specifically to celebrate it? Why?
It is a very important day to celebrate because one, it recognizes and reaffirms the importance of having women in leadership in all public institutions, including the judiciary, and the importance of having participatory and representative decision making at all levels, whether it is in government or the private sector, because it is representative of the whole society. Because if you look at our societies, it's also comprised of men and women.
Right.
And there is no reason why women should not be at the forefront. And this is one way of encouraging women, and especially the young girls in law schools or at the universities, or even at the secondary level, to also aspire to be judges. It is also a day that is meant to celebrate and recognize the contribution of women judges in the development of the law, the development of jurisprudence, and also in the advancement of the rule of law. And it also helps us to create awareness regarding the role of women judges and their contribution to society, and publicize the activities of the Association of Women Judges all over the world, and particularly for us in Kenya, so that everybody understands the role of women judges. What is it that they do? How do they contribute to nation building?
Judge, okay, so let's look at it from both sides. On the one hand, a society such as ours, which is coming to that point where we are saying, let's have affirmative action so that we can have more women in positions of leadership, in positions of service to the country. This is one. So we can celebrate any gain or any achievement being made. But then at the international level, when you come in and say, let's even create a day for women judges, let's create a day for women in a certain profession, is it over highlighting the issue of women and over mainstreaming the issue of gender and women here in particular? Because, so yes, there are judges. You are a judge. You are not, people don't come to your court because you are a woman judge. I mean, people come to Justice Cecilia Kedua's court. People, you render your rulings and your judgments because of what has been presented before you, not because you're a woman. So do you get that kind of pushback of, there's too much woman everywhere?
No, we've not received any pushback, and I believe it does not overemphasize the role of women. It is, I think it is also coming from that perspective that I mentioned earlier about the historical injustices that prevailed in our society, where women were not very well placed in leadership positions. And for example, one of the reasons why it was actually designated by the United Nations, it is because it was recognized that there were few women in the justice sector that held senior positions. And it was a way of recognizing that there is need for member states to put into place systems and strategies to uplift judges to get to senior leadership positions.
Right.
It may not be so in Kenya. As we have mentioned, Kenya has really made very substantial gains in that respect, but it doesn't mean that it is not required in other countries which are yet to achieve the level at which we are.
Do you think there should be target dates? Like we had Millennium Development Goals, Sustainable Development Goals, but then they have milestones and targets. Should we have the same when it comes to, let's say, even women in leadership in this country, women in leadership in the judiciary, and the number of women attaining gender parity, such that we know that this one is we are all working towards a specific date, which is like a sunset of that. And then after that, we will be celebrating women, but also we'll be celebrating judges. So instead of having, International Day of Women Judges, and then we start now championing for the days when we shall have International Day for male judges, we get to a point where we sunset close for International Day for Women Judges is 2057. After that, this day becomes International Day of Judges. Should we have that?
No, I don't think so. I think it should be annual, as it has been, because what we do and the reason the day was designated is constant, is continuous. We cannot say that there, after a few years it gets to a stop. Because the day has, as I said earlier, also gives an opportunity for women judges to create awareness regarding the how advancement of women rights and children, regarding the contribution of women judges and how they contribute to nation building. And it is also continuous because the participation of women is supposed to. It also is gendered towards, is engineered towards achieving the SDGs.
May I put my point of why there would be an argument for having a specific date for achieving a certain milestone because of lethargy. After a certain time, International Day of Women Judges, people may get to a point where you actually now start plateauing in terms of realizing the goals. But if you have a certain date and you say, by 2017, okay, we're in 2027, by 2047, we should have 50%, at least 50% of judges in Kenya being women, whether it's in High Court or Court of Appeal or Supreme Court, and 50% of magistrates in Kenya being women. So we're working towards something. And then after that, now we move on. But if we just keep it like this, we may get to a point where there's fatigue.
Yes, but there's something else here. Even as there's an advocacy for women participation, I am assuming that there are other matters that are subsumed in this activation of this particular purpose. Why am I asking this? The women who are in leadership in the judiciary are there by virtue of merit.
Yep.
So now, the context and the content of a meritocracy, at some point, should that not be the point of advocacy so that women have received parity, then they're okay now? Okay? Now, how do we then improve the services? Should the subject and the discussion of a meritocracy then not perhaps overtake the subject of having or advocating for issues that only pertain to women?
Yes, and that is one of the ways that our association aims to achieve by training our membership to up their competences, skills, so that they are able to deal or handle all the cases that come before them in a more competent way and in a way that advances the values that we stand for.
How do we know? What would be the indicators, Justice, to say that, these are certain milestones that we hope to have crossed by a certain time? And these are those set markers we've crossed. And we see, is it percentage of women filling these positions? Are we saying that a situation whereby girls and children's rights then have then been started to be met at a higher threshold? What are some of the markers to say that the things that have been set out by the association, for example, then have been met and you're getting closer and closer to the goals? What do you look out for?
We look out for data that would demonstrate how far we are at any particular time at achieving our targets and at achieving the kind of threshold that we would envision would be satisfactory. And but I do not think that it would be prudent to have like a sunset to the celebration of this day. Though I agree that there may be fatigue, but as the years go by, but you see, because of the kind of resistance that we have in our society, we will just need to learn how to deal with matters differently, so that every year we are setting different activities or different benchmarks to be achieved through that year, so that we do not also tire or create that fatigue that you envision. But I think it should be a continuous process, because there is always something new to look forward to and something better than what we have today.
You talked about institutions of learning, universities,
Yes.
Schools of law. What is your association doing to reach out and create this awareness and sensitization, even in high schools?
Our association conducts very many mentorship programs in learning institutions. In fact, as a way of celebrating this day, there are some of our regions, because our association is countrywide. We have 5 regions that are in the various parts of the country. And part of the activities of commemorating this day includes mentorship programs in learning institutions to mentor young girls and to encourage them to exploit their potential to the highest, and also encourage them to become judges and magistrates and join us in this quest for advancement of access to justice.
Do you also cut across in your advocacy for women in leadership in general?
Sorry?
Do you also, champion women in leadership in general, just
Yes, we do.
outside of the judiciary?
Yes, we do. That is what we do by advocating for the advancement of women's rights. We acknowledge that they cannot all be in the judiciary or in the legal sector. We advocate for leadership positions to be set out for women in all spheres of life, whether it's in the public space or the private space.
Okay. Let me throw one at you, okay? So it's been a while since the Law Society of Kenya had a female president. Do you think it's about time?
It is about time. It is about time.
The lawyers are going to elect a president.
When was the last time they had a woman president?
I think it was Rachel Omamo.
Rachel Omamo, yes.
Yes.
Which are many years ago.
Yep. Since Rachel Omamo was chair of the Law Society of Kenya, there hasn't been a woman at the helm of LSK. There are several who are campaigning for this, including the outgoing Vice President Caroline Kamende and others. That's why I'm putting the judge on the spot. So would your association now be advocating and saying, you know what, I think it's about time just to make sure that we have uniformity when you talk about the justice sector being female-led?
We would really look forward to the election of a female advocate to be president of the LSK. I think it's about time. The candidates that are contesting today for that position have what it takes. And our association would be very key, very eager to embrace the election of female president of the Law Society. It is about time. Those candidates have what it takes, and we can only wish them all the very best and say that may the best candidate of the female candidates win.
I mean, the best of the female candidates.
Right.
Win.
There's your answer.
Uh-huh.
Justice, even as you talk about, so, I mean, done very, very well in terms of having women across, whether we're looking at the High Court, courts across, and having women sitting in positions of judges and magistrates, right? And you said Kenya has done very well. But then beyond that, as this association, also to make sure that the issues that concern young girls, upcoming children, etc., are also, adhered to, paid attention to. It is in these sectors that we see some of the most serious problems in society. In the children's department, for example, underfunded, heavily underfunded, children having serious issues when it comes to the separation of their parents, rape, child marriage, FGM, things like that cannot be adjudicated in the system because of so many factors. Where does this association come in playing? Because, you said this is some of the things that you want to see actually being done and sorted out in society today. But these are major, major issues that cannot oftentimes be sorted out because of various matters. Where does this association play in some of these things?
Our association plays a major contribution in sensitizing members of the public about the harmful practices about abandoning harmful practices like female genital mutilation, which affects young girls, and and also advocating for ways to uplift the girl child, and also sensitizing members of the public about the stigma, the need to protect children, and the stigma of that comes with the child molestation in terms of most times defilement, because you find that the defilement affects young girls. And it is a very traumatic experience. And we make sure, or we try to educate members of the public about the harmful effects of these harmful practices against young girls. We also advocate for sufficient funding for institutions that deal with the children and children's rights. And we also have children courts in the judiciary that deals exclusively with the issue, all issues that affect children. And we advocate, and through our partners, look for ways of creating a friendly environment for children in these courts. We also train our magistrates, who are the first port of call in all sexual in the trial of all offenses, including sexual offenses, and we train them on how to treat children when they come to testify in court, or even if they are subjects, so that they are treated with the warmth and patience.
There's a different kind of treatment that they receive. Okay.
So we try to take all that
You
into
have
account.
a lot of work cut out for you. Judge, we thank you very much for joining us today. Thank you for coming, and all the best as you mark the first International Day of Women Judges. The Honourable Justice Cecilia Githua is the Vice President of the International Association of Women Judges Kenya chapter. We've been talking about this day. It's the first time in the world that the world is commemorating this one, the International Day of Women Judges, being a Justice Thursdays. We've been live on KTN Home. We want to say goodbye to the audience on KTN, but switch over to SpiceFM, because in the next hour we continue with more conversations. We'll be joined by a governance expert and political communications expert as well, Javas Bigambo. This is Kenya's biggest conversation.
This is
So,
the Situation.
that thing, It is called Cipladon.
It is.
It is an effervescent painkiller.
And it works 2 times as fast as your normal paracetamol. So when you need to get over that headache, really, and you're thinking, okay, so not only does it work quickly, but effectively as well. 500 mg aspartame or 1,000 natural flavors.
Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. As the government continues to streamline the border sector in the country, border operators have 60 days to join registered SACCOs in a move aimed at weeding out criminals from the sector. This is part of the measures taken by the government following Monday's sexual assault on a woman along Forest Road by a group of border riders. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i said those who will not comply will not be allowed to operate. He further stated that each member will be issued with a certificate of the SACCO they belong to, adding that the SACCO will also be required to maintain a digital register. Now, businesswoman Lucy Wanjiru has expressed her interest in vying for the Limuru parliamentary seat. Her entry into politics has taken a new twist ahead of the August 9th general election. Lucy Wanjiru is the daughter to Ndungu Njenga, who served as a civic leader between the years 1978 to 2007, representing the semi-arid Ndeye ward in Kiambu County. Wanjiru will battle it out with the incumbent Member of Parliament Peter Mwathi and former MP Chege Kirago on a NAK Kenya ticket. Also in the race is businessman Sami Maina, a close ally to Deputy President William Ruto. She said she is ready to beat the male-dominated arena, saying that she enjoys support from all cadres. Now, Kenya is being touted as one of the key drivers of global trade corridors in the next decade. Kenya is among 9 countries that will drive trade due to massive infrastructure development and enhanced regional cooperations that are set to improve the business environment. Global exports are projected to grow by 70% from the current $17.4 trillion to $29.7 trillion over the next decade. And the East African Business Council is calling East African heads of states to implement the Open Skies policy to facilitate intra-regional trade. The regional lobby group has decried the high cost of air travel within the region, saying it's an impediment to the movement of people and goods. Regional carriers have been pushing for an Open Skies policy to allow national carriers to move without restrictions to regional countries. The East Africa community's intra-regional trade stands at 20%, the highest in sub-Saharan Africa. However, compared to the European Union, which stands at above 70%, the EAC numbers fail in comparison. As of 2018, trade between EAC member states stood at $5.98 billion. Now, the new United Nations Office of Counter-Terrorism in Nairobi will boost national, regional and international efforts to combat terrorism. Dr. Fred Matiang'i held the premier regional office as a pragmatic appreciation of Kenya's strategic location and its history in fighting terror. The new office will offer East African regional member countries collaborations and partnerships in combating the Al-Shabaab and other terror groups in the region. Still on matter security, and the Kenya Defence Forces troops killed 1 Al-Shabaab militant and injured several others in Milimani, Lamu County. The troops were part of Operations Amani Boni were reportedly on patrol when they encountered a terrorist cell on the Milimani-Bauri main supply route. 1 AK-47 rifle and 3 magazines were recovered from the scene, while the soldiers are presently on the hunt for the militants who fled with bullet wounds. And a 57-year-old man with terminal heart disease who made history as the first person to receive a genetically modified pig's heart died Tuesday at the University of Maryland Medical Center. David Bennett received the transplant on January 7th. His condition began worsening several days ago, and he was given compassionate palliative care after it became clear that he would not recover. Bennett wasn't able to overcome what turned out to be the devastating debilitation caused by the heart failure he experienced before the transplant. Bennett was able to communicate with his family during his final hours. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, still in traffic hour this morning and coming out of Westerns is where we're looking at a bumper-to-bumper situation in some parts. Nothing too crazy right now, though. Looking a lot better on Gong Road as you get out towards the city. Jogger Road was heavy from the morning and it still continues to be just so. Lunga Lunga and then going on to the Likoni interchange today is where we'll see some traffic, and then getting onto the Southern Bypass is probably the best option for you. Right now still continues on Langata Road, and we're still seeing some traffic on the Thika Superhighway, but nothing too bad. Just at the Pangani underpass is where we see some of that. It's looking a lot better coming off Outer Ring. Kiambu Road, totally different story. Bumper to bumper everywhere you look, and getting out of this one might take some time. So let's keep having a look at what it looks like in a short while. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127. Let's keep things moving Thursday.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation
6 minutes after
Room,
9.
the only way to start your day.
It's still the same day. It's still Thursday. It's still the 10th day of March 2022. Welcome to the final hour of Kenya's biggest conversation today. We have a new guest in the studio. Before I introduce him, let us hear the day's Saharawi proverb.
When trouble knocks on your door and you say there is no seat, trouble tells you not to worry because they have brought their own.
Say again.
When trouble knocks on your door and you say there is no seat, trouble tells you not to worry because they have brought their own.
Trouble. They brought their own trouble and they call it a seat.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this one is from Western Sahara. Sawa. Javas Bigambo is many things. He's a lawyer, he is a governance expert, and he'll tell us what that means. He is also a political communications and strategy expert or strategist, and he'll also tell us what that means. Javas, welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Thank you so much, Latiff.
Welcome to the hot seat of the Situation Room.
Pleased to be here.
Let's start with the first one. What is a governance expert?
Well, basically, we in the realm of governance and the extent to which one has sunk their teeth in the flesh of matters governance, then to that extent, of course, there is no qualification for expertise. No, but there's no qualification. There's no award. There's no university that awards expertise.
So all these fellows who claim to be governors as experts.
No, basically, it's a question of your studies and experience that bestows expertise upon you.
According to you.
So there is no subject matter which has units that you can study so that you can understand governance.
You see,
there is.
There's no course unit for expertise in
governance. There's no
certificate
for expertise, but there are courses for governance.
But when you have consumed the courses, then can one not claim, therefore, that you have
but you see, Doc, there are people who've sat in classrooms, studied various courses, but have not practiced. Would they become experts?
At studying, yes.
Does expertise have to have some level of practice?
The practice element.
Well, the practice element is very significant, very important.
Okay.
But we know very well that, of course, qualification of studying is very important. But you see also there are various levels of practice. Academics, for example, they practice it through the lecture halls and maybe research. So that to that extent, by way of lecturing and research, they become experts by way of the experience. Yes.
And where is your expertise now drawn from? Have you been a governor?
Of the central bank.
Have you advised one or two?
Well, interestingly,
have you taught a governor?
Well, interestingly, I have and remain a major advisor to various governors and county governments, a leading strategist to various political entities and politicians.
And how have they fared as a result of
There is no client of mine who's ever failed election.
No. That's not what I asked. I asked, how have they fared in the practice of their governance?
Now,
Not whether they've been elected.
Yes. Now, interestingly, when it comes to advisory services, it is imperative that clients take up the advice that's given. But, you see, the latitude that you have as an advisor is the extent of offering the advice. The utility of that advice, actually, it's upon them. It's them to see whether or the extent to which they want to embrace the advice or not. You cannot compel a client to
That's
take up
like
and
saying,
execute
Jarvis, that a chef, a cordon bleu chef, has created the perfect meal and you set it before your client. Whether they eat it or not is completely up to them.
It's up to the client,
You've done the perfect job.
Yes.
So then what is the measure
But
of
if
your
they
success?
eat and they glow and then they put on some weight and all,
That
that's
is what I am asking.
the
That is
measure of
what
success.
I am asking. What is the measure of success?
They
What
don't-
is it
They
now?
don't lose elections.
No, but you see, elections and governance
Are different.
Are
Different,
different
yeah.
things. But you see, then, when a client depends upon your advisory services, and you see the extent to which their frameworks of execution in office leads them to comply, for example, with matters policy, statutory, and constitutional, then you'd say actually you are successful or succeeding.
Okay.
At least to that good extent.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you retained by some of these clients of yours, those who are serving in public office? Do you have a formal public appointment, or are you retained by the individual at an individual level?
Well, you see, when it comes to such kind of service, there is the retainer that comes to them as individuals, then the county governments that retain also our services.
Right.
But you see, county governments cannot retain the services of an individual. Then they retain the services of your company. Yes.
Why can't they retain the service of an individual?
But you see, when it comes to public procurement and disposal act, for example, can a county government or even a national government procure the services of an individual? Yes, they can, but it will bring various challenges. All right? It's easy, and in terms of even practice, for example, if you're a lawyer, it's easy to retain your services through your law firm than you as an individual lawyer. Right? Because also of the scale, extent of services that they may want to have you offer through, say, your company.
And you're saying that if it's an individual...
An individual can retain you.
Yes.
For example, somebody may retain you if it's a senator or a governor at the individual level, which may not necessarily require or relate to the official services of their office. If they're retaining your company, for example, it's a question of retaining your services for purposes of the executive mandate.
I'll explain to you why I'm asking this question. I've seen with the presidency, and I've also seen with the governors, where people are retained as advisors. You're never really sure.
But you see, remember that...
Sure of what? Of the retention?
The range of services that these advisory services encompass. But they're retained as advisors. Yes.
There's always something accompanying that.
Yes,
Legal
there is.
advisor.
You know, when I say you're not certain.
Political advisor.
Okay.
You know.
You just mention any discipline, and then I'll ask you, okay, so what's the range?
Legal advice.
Yeah, what's the range?
See everything. How to
now you see
commit an illegality to how to avoid.
You know, of course, they always say that the custom is always right. In the end, of course, even say in the office of the president, he's got a slate of advisors.
Yes.
All right. And it has never come to the public the scope of particular advisory services rendered by such persons, or even to gauge the delivery. For example, if it's a question of performance-based delivery, even for, say, somebody like a consultant, it has never been known to us that advisor source of the office of the president
does this.
The terms of engagement or service have never really come to the fore for the consumption of the public.
You see, President Museveni of Uganda takes a cup when he comes to this. Yes, because at the last count, I don't know how many were there. There were 140, 141 advisors Now,
Yes.
yes,
It was
But yes,
138.
no, it's true.
138
But-
December
it's
2021.
a growth industry.
Yes, but you see, it's really ridiculous, huh? Because some of those, and at such level, for example, the example that you've just cited, they just want to impress or to take care of some of their friends.
And what is wrong with that?
Well,
But do they offer advice?
but you see, there is something that we can argue is wrong. One, we're not quite certain whether the advisory services indicated are actually sought or given or rendered. Secondly, if at all these advisors are paid by the exchequer, paid from the public coffers, then actually that office should account for such services, should indicate. But do the public come out to demand for that accountability? It is important. You may not find that in certain progressive democracies where individuals are quite vigilant on various offices. Of course, if somebody is a foreign policy advisor, we will not have such office populated by 28 or 60 foreign policy advisors. Actually, you don't need even that number.
Okay.
But just same way you've said, even in the other areas, there are those. We have a national security advisor, foreign policy advisor. You think national security? You think Condoleezza Rice was working
We
alone?
even have
No, but you see,
Africa.
Yes,
Affairs advisor.
but you see,
So what's wrong with one president in Africa having such advisors? I have an advisor on Karamoja affairs. I have an advisor on the other tribe. Because I want to understand what is it that this community is feeling. What is it that this
but you see,
community
really-
wants? And I want to understand them, their nuances, what they are going through on a daily basis, so that when I, as head of state and government, I am coming up with policies and implementing government projects. I am well informed.
But you see, do you need to retain such an advisor for 5 years for community issues?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
He's
Why
a
not?
community,
But
when
no,
the community has gone.
But no, it's going to be there. But say 140 plus advisors for what?
Yes.
Now, for me, for example,
64 tribes. The other
now for me, for instance, I've studied law, I've studied political science, I've studied communication.
All right.
If you get me, then
You're a one-stop shop.
you got lots of other services that come with it. All right. But you see, if you get someone that advises you on, for example, for the case of Kenya, advice on Kikuyu affairs, another advisor on Kamba
On Luhya
affairs.
affairs.
You've got to the heart of the matter. That's precisely what you need.
Scope.
Really?
Javas.
And
All
that
right.
is why, Javas, maybe we actually need to look at it from that angle.
Yes.
Let's not look at it from this academic Western concept
Yes.
of, it's academic papers that you bring in because you're a lawyer, so then you can advise me on matters of law. And because you've studied political science, you can then also, I can retain you to advise. There are also these other things in politics.
Is there value for money?
Yes.
When a president,
Harmony, peace, tranquility, nothing is equitable to
And a
that.
feeling of inclusivity.
Yes.
and that's why I said, for example, there are certain fellows here, even here in Kenya, who've run for political office, served as members of parliament. Then in subsequent elections, they've lost. And then they are picked up as advisors, saying the office of the president in their numbers. It has never been known what they have actually delivered. When they speak, many times, you see them defending maybe government policy, but they don't speak to the subject matter for which they are retained. Then you wonder, actually, are they really advisors as the public has been told?
They may not speak to the public, but the appointing officer, maybe they
Yes.
speak. And that's why they were appointed. And having been appointed and having served their purpose, the other national purpose is for them to sing to this particular tune that the appointing officer wants them to sing to.
And also they're bound by, if I give you advice and you're implementing it, if I'm going out to the public, I've got to defend the advice that I gave you.
Well,
You have a
see,
duty, even
trouble
you,
is that-
when you are retained in your professional capacity and you've offered your advice and you're still maintaining that relationship. It means that you, whether the person who appointed you has taken your advice or not,
Yes.
you are still there, you're still earning. You've got to defend whatever they're
Exactly. But now, what about in circumstances where you are this professional rendering this kind of advisory services, and then say your client, in terms of the eyes of the public, is not seen to be actually complying with to with the matter that, for example, you render your services. If you're an advisor on graft issues,
yes,
and accountability,
yes,
and then your client actually is cited in every corruption case,
you quit.
Would you come out to defend your,
Yes, you do two things. You come out to defend them because you still believe in the advice that you give them. It
Yes.
doesn't matter whether it landed him in trouble.
Exactly.
And if you think that they're not following your advice, quit. We have seen it. John Gedongo quit.
Conscientiously so.
Yes.
Yes.
Abdikadir Mohammed quit.
Exactly. But you see here, we populate offices or advisory offices with court poets. And they actually don't really, they're not even known to be experts in those subject matters.
Are you saying that court poets do not have any role to play in governance?
Court poets serve a very important role. One, they're political impresarios. We know for a fact. Secondly, we know that they massage the ego of the appointing authority. And thirdly, they help maybe to assuage the pain and agony from other political quarters that the appointing authority has.
You know, the focus seems to be on this technical competence that people bring into the political realm.
Yes.
It is absolutely necessary because technical input is usually informed.
Yes.
But then, if we look at our politics in this country, what is it that holds sway? The academic perspective of the technicalities involved in our politics, or is it the native charm and the native sway and the basic fundamental cultural understandings that people in regions have that actually hold sway when it comes to the process of actually electing leaders?
I would argue that we need a nexus between the two, that interlink between the theoretical aspect, academic aspect, and the practice. Very important, because if it's left to the quarters of Matters Academy alone, then there could be some limitations suffered when it comes to real experiential issues that one needs to have or depth to offer services, for example, if advisory, etc. But here, if we look at the history of Kenya and the secured place of court poets, would we say that we would prefer to have court poets in their numbers for the roles that they have served in the past? Look at all the successive regimes since independence. Would we say that?
Give us examples.
Of these court poets, I was waiting of the people he defines as court
one or
poets.
two case studies here where we can actually look and say, okay, so for this person, this is what they were doing, and
and clearly you're polite because the people you're calling court poets, people have called court jesters.
Yes.
Yes, and joy bringers.
Okay, now, give us an example.
Even better. Okay.
It does better.
Yeah.
The political joy bringers.
Yes.
Now you see, we know that there are individuals in the political space, some of them even politicians, of course, who see no evil, detect no evil, cannot appreciate any evil that the leader whom they so much adore has committed or commits, or the party or to which they belong. That they simply, thoroughly and properly hero worship, sing, and even would kiss the ground upon which their leader walks. We just heard on the floor of Parliament, just most recently, a leader within the ODM saying that sisi ni ng'ombe za baba.
Yeah.
Which means that you're willing to be milked dry. Which means that you're not willing to use the brain or content between your ears to the extent that you think your objectivity serves. You just want to impress the person whom you think you're serving.
Are you suggesting that cows don't think?
Well, actually, I have not come to a point where I have arrived at a conclusion that cows have got a capacity to think. But I think they are led by some senses, but not thinking the manner in which human beings do.
So says the human being.
Yeah.
It's a question that cows would be best placed to answer.
Yeah.
And in this case, if someone is a declared cow, okay, do cows think when they go to drink water? Do they think when they eat, when they are in pasture? Do they think when they go about their daily activities? I dare say they do.
I would say that they're led by instincts and yearnings. after feeding on grass, right, for so long, or licking salt,
They instinctively know what to do.
led by
According
thirst.
to you,
They-
right.
led by thirst.
And how different are we as human beings?
Well, okay. Would we say that? Well, I've never been one, but do they have conversations?
Yeah, they do.
They do. They
Yeah?
communicate.
They do.
They communicate.
Even trees have conversation.
They communicate. Yeah, but what I'm asking is this: do they have a conversation in the manner that we would construe as such? as human
Why
beings?
do we need to judge it from our perspective? I mean, if they communicate and they understand each other, do they ask us where?
It's like judging a fish
Don't
by
you
its
see
ability to
outcomes?
climb a tree. You are talking about one which operates in one way, because if we're likening it to what you've almost described as the psychophancy around a leader, they act in a certain way because of a certain thing. Now, if you're not one of them, it would then be difficult to understand why they operate that way. But because you're looking at it from the periphery, then you would say to yourself, well, I really wouldn't do that until and unless you get into that position.
Yes.
You then are not able to understand why they do.
Now, you see, there are times when we've listened to leaders and they say that when I was on the other side, yeah, I felt my hands were tied because of the interest that I had to serve.
Yes.
Serving interests.
Yes.
Those interests may not be thought of as public interest to a great extent, or serving the greater good of the nation, but the greater good of the particular leader,
Yes.
to whom I think they owe loyalty and maybe even their positions. So which means to them, they are not driven by the desire and object to serve the greater good of the
You're
people.
always bound by that, no matter what. Okay.
Interest drives everything.
I work at the Standard Media Group.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
There are certain things that the Standard Media Group may do that I feel, come on, I mean, we have to take that direction. But I don't have to stand up every day and say, no, this one is wrong. No, this one is wrong. No.
Well,
same thing. You are retained by a certain, let's say, governor or political leader. Okay?
Entity.
You are advising them on this, and the other. And then there are mistakes that are made in the same sphere of your advice. You don't have to come out all the time and saying, no, 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 no. You tell them privately.
Exactly.
But
You raise,
publicly, you will not come out to castigate them. It's the same thing that we see with the so-called sycophants.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that the cow does not go to Baba and tell Baba, hey, Baba, this direction. Absolutely no.
Says Baba, move.
Now, the Baba may listen to the cow.
Yes.
Or Baba may choose not to listen to the cow.
Yes.
But you see, in the end, the cow cannot come out here and tell us,
You know what Baba
this
said
Baba
yesterday?
likes goat milk. No.
And we're here being milked.
But in the end, the cow knows that it's not equal with the owner.
Of
right?
course. Don't you?
Of course.
Does
But
Jefferson
you know-
Migambo not know that he's not equal to the employer?
You know when I talk about politics, if there is an enterprise, I'm calling it an enterprise that accommodates everyone on every sphere and diversity, it is politics. And as to which roles are more important or lesser than the other, that is a subject of continuing debate. But a role is played. For instance, the example I gave, if you look at, say, Uganda and the advisors, many of them are ex-military men.
Yes.
How do you transform someone who has spent a greater part of their growing life in the bush into ordinary civilian life? Where will they fit in? And they're ex-military men. Where do they fit in? And you know very well they supported your cause. What do you do?
And that's why I said earlier that the purpose of them being placed or given such appointments is not particularly to serve the subject matter for which it is purported that they are retained.
And I'm saying actually they do.
You see, they're just being, shepherded.
Corralled.
Yes. So that their idleness should not lead to a larger problem for the leader.
Now you tell me, have you not just described a purpose for which they're appointed? And a very important purpose.
No, you see,
Yes.
but the thing is this. Then why don't they just say that the state is going to retain this? Of course I know. Of course I know. I get your point. But let's face it. Are we not then stealing from the public?
No.
When it's
They're
done
not.
as such.
Did they not serve a purpose for the public, for which now you could argue they're being rewarded?
Let's face it. They, for example, in the case of Uganda, served as military men and, say, women. And having served the state and the leader, and they have retired, to the extent that maybe their services are desired, related to what they were rendering or offering earlier, it is important.
Call it a pension plan if you wish.
Yes. But what about calling them, for example, an ex-military man who's never had any serious diplomatic experience or foreign policy, and then you retain them as foreign policy advisors or international advisors to the president?
It's very important.
I mean, really.
You know
For the sake of titling, perhaps.
as well as I do, that political appointments, by their very nature, are always multifaceted.
Sure.
Now, the real work in any government ministry anywhere on this planet is usually not done by the politicians at the top.
True.
So it doesn't matter who you appoint. Okay? There are people who will ensure that that particular ministry functions the way it should be. And they've been there for a long time and they understand the ropes. They understand the where-to-fors, and that ministry will function as it should.
But would we be at a better place under the sun, if at all, even though technocrats and bureaucrats are there to handle various tasks, but even the persons occupying those offices also have got serious understanding of the job for which they have been appointed? I think would be at a better place.
No, not necessarily.
Really?
Not necessarily.
In some cases, I think it would be good if, for example, the way you're saying, that person who really, really understands the system, once they retire, if they're made chief administrative secretary, it would be good. Because they'd come back and advise and tell the president, no, you know,
and they bring some experience.
If you want efficiency in this one.
What I'm arguing against is absolutism that is actually being presented, that they would, and I'm saying not necessarily. They could.
It would
they
be
might.
advantageous.
Now, let's give real examples even in our own country. Present head of public service, Honorable Kinyo, or retired Francis Muzaura, ambassador, because of their depth and wealth of experience, even upon retirement, and you tell them or you have them as advisors to your office, you see that's desirable because of the work they were doing, still in the same line. All right? In the same line. But now imagine, for example,
having Julius Karangi in NSSF, that's not the same line.
But you see, actually, let's face it, they are being kept busy in those offices. But would you tell me that having served in their previous capacity, he is competent enough to advise, to lead, to guide that institution?
I'm going to give another example. You have General Kibwana and the port. Explain that one.
That's what I'm saying.
Yes, they do.
That's what I'm saying. They are just being.
You see, as a general, he's not just thinking war. He is managing an institution.
Yes. And this general, by the time
shepherded an institution.
Yes.
If you are general and head of the military, surely you can chair a board of...
you can chair any board.
Yes.
That is all right. But in terms of the imperatives of corporate governance, would you tell me that he's well placed?
Yes, I would.
To chair the board? Yes,
I would.
If you told me he's the chair of the audit committee, then I would ask you, surely.
But even then, I would still give that blank state. You know why? There's a misunderstanding that when people are in the military, all they know is how to hold a gun and how to shoot
fight.
Okay? Or how to back orders. Or how to receive those backed orders. Okay? No. The military in this country are some of the most educated people. And the diversity of education that you spread among the military is actually profound. The training and understanding that they go through. So these things that we talk about, as though they understand it just as well as we do. They understand logistics, then everything. So
they have also gone through training on governance.
Yes, they have. And then they have something that most civilians don't have. It's called discipline.
Yeah, let's take a break.
That's true.
Let's take a break, though. We'll continue the conversation. We're talking about the role of advisors and consultants in governance. With us in the studio is governance expert Javas Bigambo, who is also a lawyer. He's also a political communication strategist. 27 minutes to 10. Let's look at the traffic.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
This nation has never healed genuinely from the 2008 violence. We've never had a healing process. We've swept it under the rug.
Let me tell you, the handshake was the most
disastrous political event in the history of country after the coup attempt of 1982.
There is no Kikuyu pothole, Luo lack of water,
Right.
or Kamba, lack of traffic.
Yeah.
There is no Luya lack of drugs in the hospitals. Or Jaluo one. All our issues are the same issues.
If you are in a room and just about everybody in that room has a court case or another, what impression does that give you?
What are you saying? Why haven't you done it in the last 20 years? But they're telling us, like August, some miracle is going to happen. My friend, I want to tell Kenyans you'll be in for a rude shock.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
21 degrees. Sun is out in Nairobi. Highs of 27 and lows of 16 at 20. It's sunny in Nakuru. Highs of 30 and lows of 13 today. It's sunny at 18 in Nyeri. Highs of 28 and lows of 10. We'll see 13 as the low in Eldoret, where it's currently sunny at 18. Light rain now back in Mombasa in some parts at 29. Highs of 32 and lows of 25. And it's also raining in some parts of Malindi at 29. Highs of 31 and lows of 25. The sun is out in Kisumu at 26. We'll see highs of 31 and lows of 19. While in Kakamega at 25. It's sunny. Highs of 33 and lows of 15. In Kampala, mostly sunny at 24, highs of 28 and lows of 20. And the sun is also out in Dar es Salaam at 29. We'll see highs of 32 and lows of 27. Mostly cloudy conditions now that the rain has abated at 17 in Johannesburg. 24 will be the high and lows of 15. It's mostly sunny at 29 in Lagos, highs of 34 and lows of 27. It's raining still in Kinshasa at 25, highs of 31 and lows of 22. Out in Beijing, haze still continues over the city at 18, highs of 21 and lows of 6 going into early evening. 3 degrees and sunny in Paris, highs of 16 today. And we'll see highs of 15 in London, where it's currently clear at 7. Inching closer and closer to Thursday, New York, mostly cloudy at 2, highs of 9 and lows of 1.
Spice up your life.
The Times says we're getting out of traffic hour. The roads, however, totally different story. Look at Gong Road going towards the community area. That is bumper to bumper in some parts. Coming off Raila Odinga Way as well. Kenyatta Avenue into the city. That's also slowing down some. Thika Superhighway, much better. We're not looking at a bumper to bumper situation just yet, but Kiambu Road got a different memo because traffic is unending here. Limuru Road inbound is where we're seeing some traffic. Outbound, that situation has cleared up so far. Juja Road, dot of traffic is heading towards Outer Ring. But we should be all right. After traffic hour, talk to us through the morning on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Keep things moving this Thursday. Text on 40127.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Continues. Our guest is Jeffers Bigambo, advocate and also lawyer and governance expert, political strategist, has worked for various political leaders in the country on various fronts. You know, we're talking about a role of advisors and consultants. So if we look at, for example, the states, we have this guy who is a Javas. He's advisor, he's strategist, strategizing during the campaigns, works with the presidential candidate. When the president gets into office, what does the advisor become? Chief of staff, right?
Not necessarily.
In some cases,
Yes.
right? Chief of staff. And then they continue now running that office. In this country, we see various governors have advisors. There's a political advisor to the governor. There's whatever.
Education advisor. Just look at the number of ministries. There'll be advisors
There'll be an
that
advisor
are equal to
somewhere.
the number of those ministries.
Yes.
Yes.
And if you look at their background, they could have an understanding.
They tend to have a background even in the subject matter of that
subject
ministry.
matter.
Yes.
But they were also involved in the campaign and the bringing to office of this particular governor. So they have a role that they're playing. We understand what we were thinking about when we were campaigning for office, and we're here just to make sure that this is being implemented. We understand. We went around, we campaigned, we heard from the people, we have connections, we have the feelers on the ground. We are able to hear from what the people are saying, and we bring it to you. Now, I don't have to be a political scientist to be a political advisor to the governor. if I have played in the politics of the county very well, I've got my feelers, I'm a person on the ground, I qualify to be a political advisor to the governor. Am I bringing value? You may not be able to see the output, but you will see the outcome.
Well, you see, and you've rightly described, there are those individuals that some of them may be pointed as advisors, political advisors, say after one wins office. And for them, it's just a question of ensuring that the person in office keeps abreast of how the ground is, pulsating, in the county, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But if we look at it in the objective, real sense of, say, technical advisors, they are supposed to be the compass for the leader in office, to be the persons that lead whether it's the president or governor, onto that narrow path of compliance when it comes, for example, to matters policy and legislation, or even propose the requisite or desired policies upon review of various policies and statutes that need to be formulated for purposes of good governance that will promise good service delivery for the leader that is occupying the said office.
So it has to be technical.
Well, I use technical.
So, for example, we can say Mwai Kibaki's administration, he had advisors.
Yes.
The National Social and Economic Council, a formal body that is advising him on social issues and economic issues. And then with that, they are coming up with a formulation of policies going into Vision 2030 and all.
Yes.
But we also know that Mwai Kibaki had what we call a kitchen cabinet. Kitchen cabinet are those advisors that we're talking about. The people who will tell you the truth. When you're just chilling and you're relaxed and they tell you, boss. Those people are not sycophants. They are true friends. That's what they are. They'll defend you when you're being attacked. But also, on the side, they'll tell you, this is the truth.
Well, we have got something we call political guardianship. And such individuals that you're describing as kitchen cabinet, they are the protectors of the kingdom, the guardians of the kingdom, all right? And for them, their role, they know, is to protect the interests of that administration, protect the persona of that administration, and make sure that the interests, because they're there to serve certain interests, they may not have the depth of expertise in certain issues, or some of them may. But some of them also act as the political conscience of the person in office. This conscience at times is functional or otherwise. Because some of these guardians of your power are persons that may not necessarily drive you to the broader interests of the country that you should serve, but to secure certain narrow interests for your own greater good and survival. And that's what they do. While the other technical persons, for them is to make sure that the mandate that you use, you have, you deliver, for example, on certain policy issues that you committed. Now, if you come to have a leader who listens to both sides or creates some kind of equilibrium, then such kind of leader may come across as quite measured, well-meaning, and at least to a great extent deliver. They'll be seen as experts in the politics and then also delivering on services.
The leaders that we have, if we can circle back and say, looking at the Kenyan situation right now, the leaders who are measured, as you say, the leaders who have been able to tick off certain boxes in terms of what they've been able to do in their area, at whatever level, is it because of the content of their character? Or is it because of these would-be advice that they have been given by those who surround them?
I would say both. And if we are to have a leader that appreciates the equipoise of advice that they receive and also the durable content of their character, then we get to see a leader that is pleasant to look at, to listen to, and also good at delivery. For instance, here in Kenya, since the Constitution of Kenya 2010. At the first time, remember when we wanted to fill the office of the Chief Justice, we had Mwai Kibaki trying to do things the old way, but he was stopped and he had to comply. Various decisions, for example, even in our courts, are decisions that have informed jurisprudence on matters governance. For example, case in point is petition number 229 of 2012, the Mumo Matemo case, on issues to do with good governance, integrity of a person occupying public office. Look at the decision of Mumbi Ngugi, for example, in the Moses Lenolukulal case, right? And how she guided, by way of her decision, that a leader who is in such office as governor and is indicted and is facing active trial should vacate office or should step aside so that they do not interfere with the investigations or the manner in which the inquiry is being conducted or being tried. Then we come to appreciate that, if, for example, if you have an advisor who tells you that if you're to make this kind of appointment or move on this path, you need to be guided by the reflections of our durable history of the decisions made by the courts. For example, in the case of Moses Lenolukulal or the Mumo Matemo case, for example, etc. And then you get to realize that actually you are likely to go to court, to be taken to court, because the path already speaks, of such kind of trials having been instituted before. So, if you do not have an advisor that has got the depth and a technical person who appreciates, for example, such kind of even jurisprudential history, they will not tell you that, for example, there has been this case 1, case 2, case 3.
But you see,
and that's why I said that a balance.
Those officers have been created to serve you and give you all that information. Okay? There's a county attorney who's like the county AG.
Yes.
That is a person who has the technical expertise on all those matters that you're talking about. If it's about law, it's about the legal direction that you're taking, the loopholes, the things that you should avoid. The county attorney has the duty to advise the governor on such matters. The governor does not have to go and pay some lawyer called Javas Bigambo to come and tell him what the county attorney should be telling him. In fact, my argument would be these technical guys are the ones who are just eating money. These other political advisors are what you need to have as a governor.
Okay, let me then ask you.
You get all those who are giving you the other feel of the ground, because you have people in office who are supposed to serve public interests. You have a county attorney, you have got all the CECs, you've got all the chief officers, you've got the technical people, you've got the directors of the various departments in your county. All those people are giving you the technical advice that you require.
Now, I will take you to a period, I think, around December 2020, when former Nairobi Governor Okoh was impeached. And you remember the various grounds of impeachment. You remember that it's upon or on the basis of Article 181 of the Constitution, as well as Section 33 of the County Government Act, violation of the Public Procurement and Disposal Act, violation of the principles of public finance as provided for as well in the Public Finance Management Act. When all this was being done, when he had to award, for example, contracts or favor the award of contracts to certain companies, did he not have the county attorney in office? Didn't he have CCs in office and chief officers?
He did.
Thank you. So, my whole point is this, that beyond...
Do we know for sure that he did not have a technical advisor on legal matters?
Well, with that we can establish. It's something we can establish. But what I'm saying is that having persons in office that you have appointed as CECs may not necessarily mean that they will serve to give you the critical technical advice that you need. And that's why having those persons, the CECs in office, the county attorney in office, and then having these other advisors that now you get to appoint or to retain, helps you to have a wealth of, or that slate of advisors and knowledge and information may help you to make critical decisions. If at all, you're a person of appreciative sound mind.
You know, we're discussing politicians here.
Yes.
By which moral code or by which... well, yes, we have to go there, mustn't we?
Yes.
By which moral code and by which standard, accepted international standard of behavior, or by which ethos do we hold them to? How do we hold them accountable? What is it that we look for? Because you can have a governor who is educated, has academic qualifications, has even undertaken these governance courses, take that particular box. You look at their background, the people who even had very senior positions in reputable organizations. So the issue of them understanding what needs to be done, no doubt whatsoever. Then they become governor. And lo and behold, we think everything is fine until the Auditor General comes and gives you a report. We think everything is fine until the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission comes and gives you a report.
Doc, in this country, sadly so, we don't take governance seriously. We don't take ethics seriously, especially in the political sphere. We don't take it seriously. Now, look, I'll give you these examples. The courts, on their part, have made various decisions that have tried to strengthen matters of integrity, leadership, good governance.
So they take it seriously.
The courts.
Yes, the courts.
And that's why I said, in the political sphere, we don't.
What about those who actually are responsible for enacting our laws? Do they take it seriously?
There is this parlance or lexicon or politics. We always say that there is no political goodwill. All right? And we leave it at that. We always say there's no political goodwill to ensure that there is serious integrity, leadership, and good governance and the rule of law in this country. For instance, if at all we were to be serious about good governance and the rule of law, this Jubilee administration, especially from 2017, let me go back to 2013, how many court decisions have been ignored by this Jubilee administration? Many. Yet, we have got right from the president in office, who swore to protect the Constitution. When you look at Article 10, Sub-Article 2 of the Constitution, enumerates the values of good governance, and we know all of them, and one among them is the rule of law. Then which law are they protecting? And how many of us look at the president in the eye and say, Mr. President, you're breaking the law? We fear.
Why do we fear?
Most people develop cold feet when it comes to calling every sin by its name, especially with respect to political leaders. And that's our Achilles heel.
But Javas, is there universal concurrence that the president has been breaking the law and ignoring court orders?
Now, court orders are there to be implemented. The courts don't implement their orders.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
Enforcement of court orders or decrees is something that the executive plays a critical role.
Yes.
When that role is not played by the executive, right? And then we do not actually strongly speak against it. In fact, we seem to be at home with that. Are we not celebrating the contempt of courts? We are. We are celebrating the contempt of court.
That's what I'm asking, whether there is actually universal concurrence that there is contempt of court.
To the extent that court decrees and the implementation is ignored flagrantly by those that are in office, executive office, we do not need to have a conference to agree that actually there is contempt of court. It follows that there is contempt of court.
You know, when you talk about contempt of court, you are talking about the legal structure, the legal understanding. But the bigger question is this. I've heard people calling on the public to rise up and show their contempt for this contempt that is being shown to court orders and so forth. And therein lies the crux of the matter. Do you really think that, for instance, when it is said that the president has disobeyed a court order, that there's concurrence in that he has actually disobeyed a court order?
When it comes to...
I'm talking about public concurrence.
Yes. When it comes to cosmic moral law, we come to agreement...
Cosmic.
Yeah? Let me finish this statement.
Intergalactic.
Yes. Right.
Okay.
Yeah?
Carry on.
That the place of conscience is very significant in terms of decisions and acts and even omissions of person in high office. That's what we call, we have come to the legitimate expectation that we do have of you as president or you as cabinet secretary.
Are you being prophetic here?
Yes.
No, not quite.
And then you breaking court
Well, I
orders.
do not know whether he's entertaining.
I thought. No, I'm not. Carry on, please.
He's listening to the ground.
He's listening to the ground. So, I think the failure of governance, good governance to that extent, for that matter, in this country, is because we are not ready, whether individually or collectively, to hold a candle to those in office. We are not willing to call them out for their failures or limitations by way of the mandate that they have or they're executing because of the laws that they are in place. The
Is it the laws? Is it the laws, my brother, or is it our poverty? Because what prevents us? Is it that we are so poor that we can't even think beyond what is going to serve our interests on a daily basis?
Today.
Now you see,
become cows.
and you're a scholar,
And we are cows.
You know,
Livestock.
When you examine or titrate the content of Why Nations Fail by Asimoglu and Robinson, we know that nations don't just fail because of lack or absence of laws and weak policies. No. One, the issue that she talked about, the content of the character of the person occupying an office, the neglect of the implementation of laws, the neglect of implementation of court decrees, having in place policies that you know actually you do not have the will and the spirit to implement. And in fact, you sit under a tree and take water when that failure is manifest, is some of the things that lead to the failure of nations. When the Galana Kulalu project failed, having consumed billions upon billions of taxpayers' money, have we demonstrated our anger and pain at sinking such money through such project?
You know,
we haven't.
That's why I'm asking the question, because I'm bypassing all these discussions and arguments that we often have in the academic realm, and I'm asking, okay, we are poor. A large majority of the citizens of this country are poor, meaning they can't afford the next meal. They can't even think of how to afford the next meal. So what is going to occupy their mind?
What is the causal root of that poverty?
You see,
just the same way they say the gods are not to blame. I think poverty is not to blame.
Poverty is at the heart of the way we do things.
I know, but you see, when it comes to what the president needs to do while in office, you can't blame poverty.
It is what causes poverty.
Yes.
The failure by that president.
The failure
or it exacerbates the poverty that we have.
No, actually, it is. We know it. It's intentional. When
we do,
when the poverty levels are kept at an all-time high, they know the politicians in high office. They know that now they have got the masses on the short leash, and that's what they want.
And so they can then proceed to do whatever they wish because they know that these folks are beholden to them.
And they also know that you thirst for handouts.
Is that an understanding or a lack of understanding? Because the result of that was demonstrated well with the French Revolution. It was demonstrated with the Russian Revolution. The very thing that you're describing, you exacerbated. What do you think? You think you have them on a short leash? You don't.
End of the tether. It'll come to a point where they'll be like, okay.
Yes, you see, you have them on a short leash, but of course it's not eternally. All right? To the extent that they realize now that short leash is the leash of death, then now the revolution comes.
Bas. Okay. Javas, thank you for coming today. We'll talk about why you eat public money as a governance expert, and yet we have people that we are paying in those offices.
I don't eat. Okay. The quest for services
seeking to end poverty.
Offers services that people have a choice to either take or not take.
Yes.
And in most cases they take.
And when they take, he eats the money.
And when they take, they win elections.
That's one. And secondly, in closing, the reason for which you went to school and then gathered experience, that reason must be paid for.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's talk about Ciplodon.
Really quickly, for that headache that you may be feeling, Javas, you can get it 2 times quicker in terms of its acting on your body. 500 mg aspartame sweetened or 1000 neutral flavor. Available at all pharmacies near you as well as Chandarana supermarkets. If symptoms persist, seek medical advice.
Yes, indeed. City, that proverb again?
When trouble knocks on your door and you say, to trouble, of course, there is no seat. Trouble then tells you, you need not worry about the seat because they have come with their own.
That is a proverb from Western Sahara. Thank you very much for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation today. Join us again tomorrow, Friday. Will you be here, Ndu? Ndu will not be here tomorrow. And she's
But I'll be
sorry.
back.
And she says she'll be back. Okay, have a lovely day. It's now 10 o'clock.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.